Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of The Tailgate presented by Buffalo Fanatics, the only, to my knowledge, YouTube streaming, Facebook, Twitter, Buffalo Bills pregame show. My name is Steve Mathis, host of The Bills Guys multicast on Mondays and Thursday nights with my co-host Dave Tilton. I am leading off your coverage today. You can find me on Twitter at Judge Mathis. Thank you so much to everyone in the chat section. I see a whole bunch. I see Sergio. I see Ryan. I see Chris. I see a whole bunch of regulars plus a lot of new people in the chat. Nate Production, Father Snowman, Dan White. All you guys, thank you for joining me bright and early, 9:30 in the morning to, as it says on the bottom of the screen here, set the table for the Buffalo Bills versus the Los Angeles Rams. We got a great day of pregame coverage coming up for you. Great day of pregame coverage coming up for you. I will be here until the, East Coast time. I'll be here till the 10 o'clock hour. At the 10 o'clock hour, Casey Reed and Kyle Knapp will be taking over to take all your fantasy questions and your betting questions and talk a little bit of Bills. And then I will be back in the 11 o'clock hour leading you up to kickoff. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's just get things started today. First of all, Bills versus Rams. Let's set the table. The Bills are 2.5-point favorites at home versus this high-powered LA Rams team. So that's always good to see. The over-under is an unusually high for a Bills game at 47 points. The weather, 80 degrees, partly cloudy, so it should be a great day in Bills Stadium. And man, what atmosphere it would have been if people were there to tailgate. And we got Koala Bear Khan coming in with the Manscaped Mafia. Good morning. Welcome. Yes, as always, we are presented by Manscaped. If you're looking for any of the Manscaped products, refining the gentleman, head over to manscaped.com. Use the promo code Fanatics, and you can get 20% off and free shipping. So always make sure you head up over there. But some big news on Twitter this morning. Have you guys seen the big news on Twitter this morning? The bomb dropped by Kim Jones just within the last couple of minutes. Have you guys had a chance to see that in the comment section? If not, I'm going to be breaking news to you. All right. I'm breaking news. According to the people in the comment section, I got a couple people saw it. I'm breaking news to some people, but breaking news from Kim Jones of NFL Network. She says that it is very likely Tremaine Edmunds and Matt Milano will both be active for the Buffalo Bills today. And that is a huge get for the Buffalo Bills as they face the LA Rams. I talked about on Thursday, of all the games that we're going to need our linebackers, these next couple of games coming up, and this LA Rams game specifically is going to be huge to have our linebackers, because someone just mentioned it in the comment section. Tyler Higbee needs to be locked up. The dude had 3 touchdowns last week. The LA Rams run a very much a timing, misdirection, cutback offense. The linebackers are key to covering guys, to jamming guys at the line, to filling the gaps, to filling the holes, to wrapping up the tackles. Linebackers are going to be key. And guys like A.J. Klein, and I know Tyrell Dodson had a good game last week against Miami, guys like that can get exposed by play callers like Sean McVay, who have had their quarterback for 2 years, who have had a lot of their personnel for 2 years. So with Edmunds and Milano likely playing, hopefully that means they're healthy. I don't think the Buffalo Bills would put players out there that weren't like healthy enough to be ready. You know what I'm saying? Like, the Bills have always been very cautious with injuries. So I'm looking forward to that. And we're going to be talking about the matchup. Still no word on Teron Johnson. And as we all know, Zach Moss, Dawson Knox, and Delshon Phillips are all out for the Rams. Their left guard, Joe Noteboom, went to IR, so David Edwards will likely be the call up there. Cam Akers is out. Malcolm Brown is dealing with a thumb, so it's going to be likely Darrell Henderson as the bell cow for the Rams today. And their starting boundary corner opposite Jalen Ramsey, Darius Williams, is also questionable with an ankle injury. So the Rams have a much smaller injury report than the Bills have to deal with. No word yet on any of those other injuries, but I mean, that's your rundown. Those are your injuries. That's the weather. Those are the betting lines. Before I get into, top headlines and key matchups, do we have any questions from the comment section? Anyone want to chime in with some questions, some comments? Let's get this morning rolling off the right way. You are still not at the tailgate. Hey, I'm recreating. We're recreating it the best we can here with these new fancy sideline graphics of the stadium. But again, any questions in the comment section before we get rolling? All right, so no questions in the comment section. So I'm going to get rolling into Bills guys and says I think TJ Yeldon will be active today, and that's a great question. That's a great question. I think TJ Yeldon will be active today, and I want to hear what you guys have to say in the comments section. TJ Yeldon is almost certainly going to be active today. But what percentage of the carries, what percentage of the workload do you think TJ Yeldon is going to get? I think it's going to be a 70-30 day. And it's Devin Singletary is going to get 70% of the workload. I don't think you're going to see a split the way Zach Moss was seeing a split. I don't even think you're going to see what Frank Gore was getting last year. I think this is going to be a 70-30 split, Devin Singletary to TJ Yeldon. It's going to be the Devin Singletary show today. He's going to be the bell cow back. And he's going to get somewhere between 15 and 20 touches. Someone in here says, 20-80 Devin. That comes from Bills guys. And Chris Bruton says TJ Yeldon's going to get 40%. So we got a couple of people chiming in. We even have Bane Mafia saying, I think we should bring up Antonio Williams. I'd rather go with the veteran in TJ Yeldon. From all accounts, Antonio Williams has been a guy who's really impressed the Buffalo Bills. 75-25 from Becker dude. But at this point, against this veteran team, at this point in the season with the shortened training camps, and Antonio Williams wasn't even with us for all of training camp, I don't know if I feel comfortable, and it's too late to call Antonio Williams up anyway. Got another great question here from Vivid Highlights. Diggs versus Ramsey, who wins? Diggs versus Ramsey, who wins? Let me know in the comment section what you guys think. And I think I know what the answer is going to be. And I'll say this when it comes to Diggs versus Ramsey. I'll give respect to Ramsey all day, but the Buffalo Bills finally have a talent in Stephon Diggs where we don't have to respect him too much. And what I mean by that is you have to watch what you're doing when you throw the ball to Jalen Ramsey's side of the field. You got to watch what you're doing. You got to be careful. It's got to be targeted. It's got to be selective. It can't be just attack Jalen Ramsey. It can't be just run your offense and see if Stephon Diggs gets open. I think today you got to be selective with your shots. You have to manufacture your targets against Jalen Ramsey. Play action. Like when you're going to Diggs against Jalen Ramsey, I think it needs to be planned. Like that needs to be the first option. And there has to be something within the offensive scheme of Brian Daboll that manufactures something for Stephon Diggs, something creative for Stephon Diggs to give him that advantage over Jalen Ramsey. Because I really do think it's even. So when you look at this Rams defense, only 4 players scare me. Michael Brockers, Aaron Donald, the strong safety Johnson, and Jalen Ramsey. No one else on this defense even remotely frightens me. So if you can create an offense that sort of avoids those 4 players, but then over the course of the game takes select shots at those 4 players, that's a pretty solid game plan if you ask me. And Brian Daboll, who's been calling plays and part of NFL, coaching staffs for almost 20 years now, against a guy in Brandon Staley, who's been in the NFL for this is his 4th year, 3rd year. I know he's a Vic Fangio disciple, but he was in small town colleges, D2 colleges in like Northern Illinois. He's a fast riser in the coaching world. Sure, he's a bright guy, kind of like Sean McVay. But you don't think Brian Daboll can manufacture an offense with his 20 plus years of NFL experience to make Brandon Staley's head spin? I'm pretty confident he can. There was another question in the comment section about feeding the ball to Diggs. If we're trying to feed the ball to Diggs, here's an interesting proposition for you. Say Darius Williams plays today. I know he's dealing with the ankle. He is 5'9", 187 pounds. Gabe Davis is 6'2", 215. Why not in this situation maneuver Gabe Davis to the boundary? Even if it's just in select packages, maneuver Gabe Davis to the boundary and put Gabe Davis one-on-one, that height, weight, size mismatch against a Darius Williams. Have John Brown on the other boundary and kick Stephon Diggs into the slot. Does Jalen Ramsey follow Stephon Diggs to the slot? Who knows? Who knows if Stephon Diggs follows Jalen Ramsey into the slot? So that could be a way to manufacture touches for Stephon Diggs. That could be a way to get Stephon Diggs away from Jalen Ramsey. That could be a way to take some of the burden off of Cole Beasley today, because Cole Beasley's been dealing with a hand injury that seems to have been really bugging him at practice today. But that being said, you look at this Rams offense or defense. Darius Williams, number 2 corner. Jordan Fuller, free safety. The linebackers, unathletic. They're edge players, very unathletic. Troy Hill in the nickel role. Outside of those 4 main guys, nothing scares me. So even if Stephon Diggs is contained by Jalen Ramsey today, Cole Beasley, John Brown, Gabe Davis, Devin Singletary, they should eat today, folks. They should eat today. If you have a Buffalo Bills player on your team, I'd put them on fantasy because I think we're in for a shootout. I'm feeling a little bit more confident in our Bills defense now that I know Evans and Milano are playing. Joe Miller, if you get a chance, he does these 20-minute quick hitter podcasts to preview every game. It dropped on the Buffalo Fanatics podcasting network this morning. In his promo on Twitter, he said it. He said, "Don't be scared when the Los Angeles Rams score points today. Don't be scared." Why? Because we finally have an offense that can go toe-to-toe with them, and they have a really good offense, and our defense is kind of hurting right now. We can't be afraid to get in shootouts with teams, and if we get in a shootout today, don't lose your mind. Like, both teams are going to score points today. Both those offenses are this good. Yeah, I really like this comment here from I am Danny 716. He says the Bills aren't going to change anything. They're going to sling it. I agree with you. So I don't think we're going to see the Bills come out here, especially with Zach Moss out, and run, just because the Los Angeles Rams are really good or really bad at stopping the run. We didn't do it last week versus Miami. We attacked Miami, whose strength was in the secondary. We're going to attack the Rams the same way. This is our offense now, folks. This is our offense. Like, it is what it is. Like, this is our offense now. We have entered the new age of the National Football League. Maybe in the winter months, we might start seeing a little bit more of an emphasis on the run when the weather and stuff turns. But this is our offense now. We got Chris Janke saying, Steve, do you think the Bills use a quick passing game to neutralize the Rams' defensive pass rush? Do you think Josh Allen is capable in that role? I certainly do. I certainly think he's capable in that role. I mean, we've seen him do pretty well this year in the short to intermediate passing game, at least the intermediate passing game. So, Cole Beasley, someone mentioned, what do you think Cole Beasley's role today is? Cole Beasley, Tyler Kroft, someone had a bold prediction that Tyler Kroft goes over 100 yards in a touchdown today. Devin Singletary, Cole Beasley, Tyler Kroft. We could easily be funneling a lot of our plays through those guys, moving guys like Gabe Davis, John Brown, Stephon Diggs into the slot, and going for those quick hitters. We've seen the Buffalo Bills run a lot of pistol formations this year, but from that pistol formation, Tyler Kroft or Dawson Knox were sort of going out into the passing game. I wouldn't be surprised if, because of Aaron Donald, we run a lot of pistol today. But that's sort of like semi-fullback in that pistol formation, that tight end, whether it be Tyler Kroft or Lee Smith. I wouldn't be surprised if they just stay at home to deal with that big boy Aaron Donald. And Josh Allen is tasked with getting the ball into Devin Singletary's hand, getting the ball on slants to John Brown, to Stephon Diggs, on those curls to John Brown and Stephon Diggs. St. Louis, I keep doing this. I done that like 10 times on Thursday. The LA Rams, they run a very soft zone. They drop guys deep into coverage. They run a soft zone. When you have speed on the outside like John Brown and Stephon Diggs, and they're such a threat deep, those corners are going to be playing really far off of them. Really far. So we're talking quick hitters. Josh Allen's got that strong arm to throw them screen passes. We're talking curl routes where they fake deep, come back in, and they're wide open because of all the respect the corner's been giving them. Josh Allen's got that strong enough arm that the corners don't have a shot to jump that football. Josh Allen has the physical abilities. We have the players to attack the kind of defense that the Los Angeles Rams are going to run at us. Unless the Los Angeles Rams completely switch things up, they're going to be running soft zone. And that's something I think Josh Allen now has the weapons to take advantage of. And I think he has catered and tailored his game to be able to do those things. So it's really exciting to see. I'm fairly confident that we're going to see the Buffalo Bills get into the 30-point mark again today. I'm pretty confident we're going to get into the 30-point mark again today. And I think the Rams are going to be right up there too. I really do think today's going to be a shootout. So it should be super, super interesting to see what we got cooking up here. Someone says, so I saw a comment about Gabe Davis. Says, don't be surprised if Gabe Davis slips deep one play and gets a big touchdown. I don't know about that. And the reason why is because I don't know if the Rams defense caters to that. I think the Rams defense, we saw against the Jets. What did the Bills do? They took what the defense gave them. And Josh Allen threw the ball a lot, and there wasn't a lot of shots down the football field. They took what the defense gave them. And the defense was playing zone. So they did a lot of stuff underneath against the New York Jets. I think you're going to see a lot of that again today against the LA Rams. And if we execute better, we'll score more points. Miami played man-to-man. So what did we do? Our receivers ran by those corners, and we went for the big play. So if defenses are going to play zone against us, I think, Spin 0481 says it best. Rams are a bend but don't break defense. Exactly. Brian Daboll is that smart, savvy veteran offensive coordinator. He's going to take what the defense gives him. And then he'll take some selective shots here and there because I think he'll have some things cooked up to make Brandon Staley's head spin. We got a super chat here from Scott Vanilou. Really respect the super chatters. Thank you so much. Always appreciated, Scott, and any super chatters out there. He says, if Diggs gets contained by Ramsey all day, Devil open up the pass. That I think that's supposed to say that'll open up the passing game for the other three receivers, and then we will just have to contain Aaron Donald. Do you think that would happen today and make for a win? Yeah, I'm fairly confident in what Scott just said. If Jalen Ramsey is able to contain Stephon Diggs, if the St. Louis Rams I did it again. If the LA Rams are able to take Jalen Ramsey, put him on Stephon Diggs, and just shut Stephon Diggs down, okay, that sucks. Stephon Diggs is our alpha. But at the end of the day, number 2 cornerback for the LA Rams is Darius Williams, 5'9", 186. UDFA, former UDFA. You're telling me John Brown can't get by that young guy? Especially when he's dealing with an ankle injury. You're telling me Gabe Davis can't outmuscle that guy? You're telling me in the slot, a guy like Cole Beasley can't handle a Troy Hill? A guy like Tyler Kroft can't handle those unathletic linebackers that they have, like Micah Kaiser? You run that pistol, you got guys like Lee Smith and Tyler Kroft in line, chipping away at Aaron Donald. You're telling me Brian Daboll can't just exploit everything else? Keep a tight end like Lee Smith in to chip Aaron Donald. Let Jalen Ramsey take Stephon Diggs away. You still got Cole Beasley. You still got Tyler Kroft. You still got Gabe Davis. You still got Isaiah McKenzie. You still got Devin Singletary. This offense is loaded, folks. And Josh Allen has shown that he can distribute that football. Brian Daboll has shown that he's not afraid to distribute that football. And you might not have to worry about Stephon Diggs losing his mind if he doesn't go off today. We've seen the comments from Stephon Diggs. Oh, I've caught enough balls today. John Brown's. Let's find some ways to get John Brown and Cole Beasley open. I just want to win. So we're seeing all of these different. We're seeing this mindset from Stephon Diggs, where if there's a week where he gets shut down, I don't think he's going to lose his mind. So it's going to be really interesting to see what goes on today. So we got about 10 minutes left here. I got plenty of matchups and things we can talk about. But I'm more than willing to retake questions. So you guys hit up your comments in the comment section while I awkwardly head over to Twitter to send the next 2 hosts of the 10 o'clock hour, Casey Reed and Kyle Knapp, their invitations to this stream. Because again, for the 3rd week in a row, I have not done that before the show started. So I'm just going to paste that there. And Casey and Kyle should be able to see that. All right. So, Buffalo fan. Let's talk about sacks. Sacks is going to be big. Let's talk about defense a little bit. We've been talking about offense this whole show. Let's talk about defense a little bit. It's going to be really interesting. The interior of that LA Rams offensive line, Austin Blythe, David Edwards, who's in for Noteboom, and Austin Corbett. I think Ed Oliver, Quentin Jefferson, and Vernon Butler are going to play a huge role today. And that's not to say Harrison Phillips isn't going to play a role today either. But those other 3 guys, Butler, Jefferson, and Oliver are known for the ability to get toward the quarterback, to get at the quarterback, to get sacks. So if those three guys plus Phillips can really push the pocket and cloud the pocket for Jared Goff, Sean McVay runs very much a timing offense. And Jared Goff does not throw well. Jared Goff does not throw well under pressure. If those three guys can really force Jared Goff out of the pocket, guys like Jerry Hughes will be there to eat. Guys like Trent Murphy will be there to wrap up. The LA Rams have some pretty solid tackles in Rob Havenstein and Andrew Whitworth. And that brings me to my second point. When we talk about the edge, I think most of the pressure today needs to come from the interior. Cloud the pocket, force Goff out, force him to throw on the run. However, when we talk about the edge, I think we could have some success. We saw it a little bit against Miami last week. There was a couple of plays where they moved Jerry Hughes to left end, and they put Jerry Hughes against the less athletic Jesse Davis. Could we see a situation this week where Jerry Hughes or Mario Addison get some play at left end to go against the less athletic Rob Havenstein? Because I have the most respect in the world for Andrew Whitworth. I don't care that he's 65 years old. I don't care that he's got an AARP card. I don't care that he's collecting Social Security. He's one of the best tackles in football, folks. The man is a wall. He can pass block. He can run block. He stays healthy. He's one of the best tackles in football, despite the fact that he's almost 40 years old. The man is a monster. Absolute monster. So if you, on occasion, just want to put Trent Murphy there and sort of say, hey, Trent, just set the edge. Just set the edge and do what you do. Try to use a power move on him and move the pass rush guys, Jerry Hughes and Mario Addison, over to that left end spot to try to take advantage of Rob Havenstein, who's a little less athletic, who's a little bit more of a run blocker. Go for it. I think that might be a place where you could get an advantage today in terms of sacks, but it's really important. Last week, we didn't get to Ryan Fitzpatrick in time, and it's not anyone's fault. We were creating pressure. Ryan Fitzpatrick's just that cagey veteran who, and Miami just force-fed the ball to certain receivers, and they were throwing that ball lightning quick. That's not the Rams' offense. That's not the way the Rams' offense is built. The Rams' offense is built off misdirection, screens, yards after catch, play action, setting up plays. It's going to take them time to do what they want to do on offense. So our interior defensive linemen have a chance to get to that quarterback. Our guys like Jerry Hughes and Mario Addison and Trent Murphy will be on that edge if Jared Goff gets forced out. So that's huge. Another thing we want to talk about in the secondary, another thing we want to talk about is the secondary. Sean McDermott and Leslie Frazier love running zone. They love it. They don't like to check dudes at the line of scrimmage. They don't like to bully dudes at the line of scrimmage. That's not the Buffalo Bills game. That's New England's game. Stephon Gilmore does it better than anyone. That's just not what the Buffalo Bills do. That's just not what Sean McDermott and Leslie Frazier are comfortable with. They'll switch to it. They'll do it on occasion, but it's just not something that they're really comfortable with. And in this offense that's all based on timing and rhythm and getting Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp the ball and misdirection and yards after catch, I really do think the Buffalo Bills should consider running some more man-to-man jam at the line concepts today. Because you're going to want to make Jared Goff hold onto the football for as long as possible. The longer he has to hold onto the football, the more pressure gets to him, and he does not throw well under pressure. It's a timing and rhythm offense. Don't let him get in a rhythm. Don't let these receivers get in a rhythm. Don't let them get into their breaks. Don't let them get into their routes. Don't let Jared Goff get the ball out of his hands quickly. Someone says, are you concerned with the lack of turnovers? I just don't know. Like, I don't know where I'm at with the turnovers in this football team, because it's been about 2 years, right, since we've gotten, it's been since Sean McDermott's first year in the Buffalo Bills where we rode turnovers to the playoffs. It's been a while since this has been a defense that's forced turnovers. We forced a lot of pressures. We forced a lot of 3 and outs. We haven't given up a lot of points, in these last 2 years, but we haven't gotten a lot of turnovers either. So usually that's a recipe for a defense that might come back down to earth. So yeah, it is concerning. I just don't know if I have any comments for it, at this moment, but it's definitely on my mind. Someone says, John Doe says you need to stop the run on D. Yep. Without a doubt. It's going to be the Darrell Henderson show today. It's going to be the Darrell Henderson show. I know Casey and Kyle are coming up next, and they're the fantasy guys. But if you have Darrell Henderson on your bench, get him in your starting lineup because he's going to be the bell cow today. Malcolm Brown is dealing with a fractured thumb. Like that dude's he's playing with a fractured thumb. He's not going to play a lot. Malcolm Brown will be a decoy. Cam Akers ain't playing. It's going to be the Darrell Henderson show for the LA Rams, and they love to start running the ball outside and try to cut it inside. And that kind of running game where they rely on cutbacks like that, it's all about the linebackers reading, reacting, filling the gaps, and wrapping up the tackles. The safeties coming up, making the play. I'm not worried about Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer. I am a little concerned that Tremaine Edmonds and Matt Milano might not be 100%. I would be shitting my pants, excuse my language this early in the morning, if it was AJ Klein and Tyrell Dodson. So I'm feeling a little bit more confident against the run. But Joe Smith says they have two rookie running backs. Cam Akers ain't playing today. He is out with a rib injury. Malcolm Brown fully practiced all week, despite the fact that he fractured his thumb last week. So I think he'll be limited, despite the fact that he was a full participant in practice all week. And then they have Darrell Henderson, who I had mentioned previously. I think he'll be the bell cow today. But yeah, any last second comments before I turn it over to Casey Reed and Kyle Knapp? We're still waiting on Kyle in the waiting room. Casey's there. Casey's ready. But Casey, wave to the people even though they can't see you. He's waving. Trust me. Someone says, is Delshon Phillips playing? Delshon Phillips is not playing today. We had a couple of comments about AJ Epinesa earlier. Deion Lacey got called up from the practice squad today, despite the fact that Edmonds and Milano, according to Kim Jones, are likely to play today. That could mean that AJ Epinesa could be on his way back to the inactive list. He didn't have the greatest game in the world against Miami. So you could see Deion Lacey there for special teams purposes and AJ Epinesa back to the inactive list. Scott Acquard says Teron Johnson versus Cooper Kupp. Teron Johnson might not even play today. And if Teron Johnson keeps getting work, you could see Dean Marlowe. You could see Micah Hyde or Jordan Poyer in that role. You could see Cam Lewis. You could see Levi Wallace again, Trey White. I wouldn't be surprised maybe if the Buffalo Bills play matchups this week. Like Levi Wallace was getting targeted. And one of the reasons why he was getting targeted is the Buffalo Bills were putting Levi on one side and Trey on the other. And they weren't switching. It was just, okay, whoever goes to the left side, Levi's covering. Whoever goes to the right side, Trey's covering. And that allowed Ryan Fitzpatrick to get in a rhythm. He knew exactly what side of the field Levi Wallace was going to be on, and he threw it there, and he threw it there, and he threw it there, and he threw it there. Right between the hash marks. So we could see a situation this week where they put Levi on one and Trey on the other, so that maybe it'll help confuse Jared Goff and then switch every once in a while to sort of confuse Jared Goff to make it to so where he can't know where Levi is going to be at all times and know exactly where to exploit him. So it should be an interesting situation there. Cam Lewis could get some playing time. It'll be really interesting to see. One of the things that's disappointed me in our secondary is Siran Neal. And it's not his play that's disappointing me. It's the Bills' lack of faith in Siran Neal. Siran Neal only played like 12% of the snaps last week. Dean Marlowe got more snaps against Miami than Siran Neal. I was really looking forward to seeing Siran Neal take a step up and maybe go 50-50 with Teron Johnson in the nickel this year, or 40-60 in the nickel this year, and take on a role as a big nickel corner. I was really looking forward to that. And apparently the Bills coaching staff just doesn't see in Siran Neal what maybe some of us, the fans, see, because it was Levi Wallace, it was Teron Johnson, it was Dean Marlowe last week. They were using safeties. So it really should be interesting. Maybe the Buffalo Bills finally show some trust to Siran Neal this week. We could see the UB guy, my boy Cam Lewis, get some run this week as well. So that should also be super interesting. Still waiting on. Oh, Knapp is having cam issues, so bear with him. All right. So our next hosts are having some technical difficulties. So I am still with you, and I can still take some quick questions for you. Interesting note. One thing we haven't talked about since week one. Week one, the talk. What was the talk going into week one? Rookie kicker, how's he going to do? And then after the game, it was like, and Andre Roberts was the talk of the town after week one, and then week two, he was kind of invisible. We might be having a special teams conversation again after this game. We might be having a special teams conversation again after this game because there are two rookie kickers, Tyler Bass and Sam Sloman. Bill Stadium, Ralph Wilson Stadium, New Era Field, whatever you want to call it. Throughout its history, that stadium has been an absolute wind tunnel, And you have Tyler Bass, a rookie kicker who's kicked in the stadium once, and Sam Sloman, a rookie kicker who's never kicked in the stadium. Both have been a little bit inconsistent. In their play. So it should be interesting. I mean, this could be a conversation that we're having post-game. Like, wow, that game was a lot closer than it should have been because kickers were missing kicks. Extra points, field goals, who knows? Or it could be a conversation that we're having after the game. It's like, wow, finally, Tyler Bass stepped up. We have ourselves a kicker. Chris, with the obvious question here. Come on, Chris. I read there's going to be high winds today, which is why I was talking about kickers. Who do you think that favors, Josh Allen or Jared Goff? Of course it favors Josh Allen. That man can cut the ball through any wind. I still remember last year. It was before one of the games. It might have been the Denver game or the Washington game or one of the games. And Sal Capaccio of WGR, he's the sideline guy for the radio broadcasts. And during pre-games, he was tweeting about what he was seeing. And Davis Webb was out there warming up with the practice squad guys, and Sal Capaccio tweeted. He was like, man, the winds could be a problem today. I'm really concerned about the winds. Davis Webb's throws are just getting hung up in the air, and it's just not crisp. It's just not clean. The winds are going to be a major factor today. And Sal was freaking out over the winds. And then Josh Allen came out for first team warmups. Sal Capaccio tweeted, he's like, never mind. He was just, forget about it. It's not a problem. It's not a problem because Josh Allen can throw through those winds. He can throw those laser beams. So maybe you get concerned if he's throwing curl routes, if he's throwing outside routes, and a guy like Jalen Ramsey could jump it. Yeah, you might be concerned a little bit more that it could get hung up in the wind. But it's Josh Allen, man. The guy's got 99 rating in Madden arm strength for a reason. He's got the strongest arm in the National Football League. Him and Patrick Mahomes. And then there's 6 rungs down, and then there's the next guy. So this is why the Buffalo Bills drafted this guy, to play in these conditions, to play in these winds, to play in all that stuff. So what we're going to do right now is I'm going to head to a quick break. When we come back in about 2 minutes, I will be back here with Casey Reed to take all of your fantasy questions, your Bills related fantasy questions. And then when Kyle gets his technical difficulties dealt with, we will let Kyle take over for me on my end. So bear with us. We'll be back in about 2 minutes. Welcome to Fast Fanatics Bills Rams edition. Everything you need to know about Sunday's game in just over 2 minutes. The spread on Sunday favors the home Bills. They are 2.5-point favorites. The over-under on points is a relatively high 47. On the injury front, the Bills will be without running back Zach Moss, linebacker Delshon Phillips, and tight end Dawson Knox. Look for TJ Yeldon and Lee Smith to be active for the first time this season, but for Devin Singletary and Tyler Kroft to carry the load. Linebackers Tremaine Edmonds and Matt Milano are questionable, along with nickel cornerback Teron Johnson. Milano was a full participant all week, while Edmonds and Johnson were limited. If they cannot go, Tyrell Dodson, A.J. Klein, Cam Lewis, and Dean Marlowe will see a bulk of the work in their absence. On the Rams side, a much shorter list. Out is rookie running back Cam Akers. Expect Darrell Henderson to be the bell cow, as Malcolm Brown is also dealing with a thumb injury. Number 2 corner Darius Williams is also questionable with an ankle. His replacement would likely be cornerback David Long. The weather in Orchard Park is expected to be 81 degrees and partly cloudy. High winds of 10 to 20 miles per hour is expected, which could cause an issue for both teams' rookie kickers.
Oh. Hold up. Kyle, I just got your message.
Yeah. I've had an eventful morning.
Man, you're good. You're good. I was looking at my phone. I just saw it. It's like, hey, I'm good. I'm up. And then boom, it came up. So that's awesome. What's going on, guys? Good morning.
Yes, good morning to everyone. I've been up for 8 hours now. How about yourself?
Yeah, no, you do that like working out junk and like
No. This was I had to drive home. So I was actually back in Rochester visiting family this weekend, and my girlfriend had something she was supposed to get back for. So I was like, well, we'll just leave early and get back so I can do the show here. And then I had some camera issues, but we're good now. Let's do this. I'm excited.
Dude, I am pumped up. It is early. It is real early. Like I'm exhausted. I know you are. You've been driving all day.
Yes.
I've been drinking coffee all morning. It looks like you are just pounding the energy drinks.
Yeah.
I'm ready to go.
Let's do this.
It looks like we got a lot of people saying, what's going on, Casey, Kyle? Guys, we're going to be talking for about 2-3 minutes. Y'all go ahead and drop your fantasy football questions. I've had tons of people reach out to me on Twitter. Tons of my friends have been reaching out to me via my personal phone saying, hey, should I start this guy? Should I start this guy? And I said, great question. I'm going to be live on Buffalo Fanatics YouTube channel, Facebook, Twitter, all those good stuff. So I've been linking that out there. So if you have questions, go ahead and drop them in the chat. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button because the BF Tailgate will be going all morning long. And Nap, you're telling me you just drove like 8 hours, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're fitting to have a huge morning. You're not going to sleep at all, dude.
No.
I'm exhausted. I am exhausted. Let's see. There's something. First and foremost, right? I want to apologize to the Barkley guy. I told you not to take that trade. Kyle said, take the trade. And what happened, man? Like, I'm curious. I'm curious.
I wish I didn't have to be right about that. That's one that, like, I was right, but, like, not because of why I thought I was right. So that was an unfortunate one.
Chris said, Casey, the moving boxes look pristine in the background. Thanks, dude. I really appreciate that. Me and my wife were very, very excited. We got a huge house, or huge to me, and we're ready to move in. I've got pretty much the whole upstairs to myself. In fact, what I'm in now is the kitchen in a small 1-bedroom apartment. The man cave that I'm moving to is literally as big as this kitchen, which is the whole apartment, by the way, if I haven't made that clear. So it's going to be a huge man cave. I know my internet is lacking. I skip in and out all the time. I'm actually getting that fixed in the new place, all that good stuff. So I'm super excited for a big, giant man cave. I'm thinking about putting Buffalo Fanatics everywhere. I'm thinking about putting a big Bills flag. Like, I've got everything mapped out. So I'm ready to go. The man attic. You're right. I'm excited about it. But let's get in some some fantasy questions.
Before we get into the viewers' fantasy questions, I actually have a question I need answered.
Yeah, ask it. I'm here for it.
So I have a little roster issue. I've had some injuries going on. I have Kittle out. I have Sutton out. I have Michael Thomas out. Like, my roster is just depleted. But I have Allen Lazard, Mike Williams, and Deontay Johnson. And I need to decide which one of them to play for my wide receiver 3 spot. And I will also add in, I have Juju.
So you want to know if you want to start Mike Williams or who?
Mike Williams, Deontay Johnson, or Allen Lazard. Because I'm hurting at wide receiver right now. I need some help. I want to play Deontay Johnson, but can't. Like, it's hard to play him and Juju. So I need to be talked off the ledge there.
You know, it's wild, right? Because all 3 of those guys that you mentioned, I see at the same sort of level, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So it's very much, and that's what I like about fantasy, right? It's a puzzle. It's like, who do I start here? Who do I start here? So first off, I want to say, you know, doing doing two guys on the same team is very iffy. It's very iffy because there's only one ball. So you have to look at, and for those at home who are wondering, how do these people get these, how did they choose between this and this? There's a math that goes into it. So you have to look at it, right? Do you think that Juju is going to get the ball over Deontay, right? Do you think that's going to happen? If you do, don't start. Was it Deontay Johnson?
Deontay Johnson, yeah.
Yeah. You don't start Deontay Johnson, right? So I would take him out. Now, on the other side, Herbert is starting for the Chargers, right?
Yeah.
So I think that Mike Williams has a higher ceiling now that Herbert is starting with the Chargers.
That was my thought process. I was leaning towards Williams, but also, like, we talked about this last week. I like Aaron Rodgers.
I love Aaron Rodgers.
And he doesn't exactly have, like, the best receivers to throw to, but Allen Lazard is one of them. So he's going to have a couple of big games throughout the year. I just don't know if I can trust that this is the one. I was leaning towards Mike Williams, but I don't know. I'm stuck. It's a bad spot.
Allen Lazard plays New Orleans, right? And they have a sneaky good secondary. So that is where the question would come into. I haven't looked up who Williams is playing against, but
Carolina,
dude, come on, you got to start Mike Williams at that issue.
Yeah,
like
we're getting a lot of comments. We've had nobody has said Allen Lazard, which I'm not extremely surprised about.
I like
he was
Lazard.
Like a sleeper. He was my sleeper pick.
Yeah, I like him
out of these three. But we're getting a lot of Deontay Johnson, and the entire reason why this is a question for me is, once again, because I have Juju on my roster and, like, I'm starting him every single week. So
yeah,
I think I agree with you. I'm gonna go with Mike Williams. So let's just move past my stuff now. Yeah, I wanted to clear that up though. Also, a little, I guess, PSA. I think for everybody start him and sit him, it would help if you say who the player is and who they're playing against in your start him and sit him. So that would be very helpful because we don't necessarily have that all pulled up, and that'll help things move a little bit quicker when we're answering questions.
I'm quick, right? But I'm not that quick. Okay.
Right.
One thing that I do want to bring up as we're starting now, and we are getting into this fantasy football talk, but the big news that came out this morning, right, was that Trey Edmonds and Matt Milano are starting per at Kim Jones Sports. So Kim Jones tweeted this out this morning. NFL Network confirmed it, or I guess she confirmed it. NFL Network tweeted it out, but they are active today, which is great news for the Buffalo Bills, which means I don't expect Tyler Higbee to go off for 3 touchdowns now. I do expect him still to be a factor against the Bills defense because even if they are active, they are not 100%. So if you're tuning in right now and you haven't smashed that like button, you now know that Trey Edmonds and Matt Milano are starting. So go ahead and smash the like button. We'll get into some fantasy talk.
Yeah, let's do it. Do you have a specific, like, start 'em, sit 'em that you want to do, or do you want to just dive right into the start 'em, sit 'ems?
I want to kind of go over like Buffalo, right? I want to kind of go over Buffalo for a little bit because I see some great questions out here. Like Adam Shepard has a couple of good questions. Manny is in the chat, my co-host from Buff City. Buff City's out now. It comes out on Saturdays. You can go ahead and listen to that, get your fantasy football needs. And then Nap Nose Bills, he comes out on Fridays. And you did your bold predictions for week 3, which for the audience that doesn't know, bold predictions is brought to you by y'all, right? So they ask the questions and you answer them right there on your podcast. So that is an awesome thing. So if you ever want to get on the podcast, you ever want to ask some questions, go to Nap Nose Bills. He's going to get you covered. So he's out on Friday. Me and Manny, we're out on Saturdays. So go ahead and listen to both of those podcasts after the show is ended. But let's jump into it. So it's a good question, right? A lot of people are saying, do I start Diggs or do I start John Brown, right? Just like in Minnesota, just like with Adam Thielen and Diggs, right? They flip-flopped who was going to have a bigger game, right? I don't know if they did it intentionally. Obviously, I doubt that, right? But that's just how it is. And that's how it's going in Buffalo. So right now, you've got to think, right? Who's going to be covering Stephon Diggs, or who better be covering Stephon Diggs? That's my boy, Jalen Ramsey, right? Okay, so Jalen should be on Stephon Diggs, especially after Diggs went off for 8 receptions, 156 yards, and a score against Miami. you just pay Jalen to be that superstar. Jalen better be covering Diggs, right?
He should be. The one thing I will say with that is that in week 1, and I don't know who he was guarding in week 2, but I know in week 1, he wasn't just shadowing Amari Cooper the entire time.
Yeah,
so I don't know if that changes now, but I know he was going on Amari Cooper. He was guarding Michael Gallup. Like he was switching back and forth. So I think both of them have a chance. It's just going to depend on situationally who goes off when.
Which if I was Sean McVay, right, and I just saw Diggs go off for a clear 150, like I'm gonna go to Jalen and be like, hey dude, like you were complaining about your contract, right? We traded you traded for you from Jacksonville. We gave up like 2 first-round picks for you, right? I just gave you like 75 mil, right? You better get on him and you better not let him get more than 80 yards, right? If I was Sean McVay. But I'm not. I'm just some dude, right, in Tennessee that has no experience coaching. Jeffrey Green popping up saying, let's go Buffalo. Jeffrey, we're going to get that comment up here in just 1 minute. We appreciate you. Steve is our producer, so he probably went and grabbed some water a little bit. He's been doing just great stuff for Buffalo Fanatics. But we appreciate you, Jeffrey Green. Moving on. So my thing with Diggs is right, I think that John Brown is going to get – this is John Brown's game, right?
Oh, I agree with that.
So I think Stephon Diggs is still going to get his 8 receptions. He's averaging 8 receptions right now, and I still think he's going to get around 80 yards, right? Just like week 1. And then, just like week 1, John Brown went off for, a cool 100 yards and a touchdown, right? I think John Brown's the way to go. Obviously, if you have Stephon Diggs in your lineup, you never pull him out, right? Not right now. He's too hot to pull out. Same with Josh Allen. But if you've got both of these guys, right, you got John Brown, Stephon Diggs. If this is how your fantasy draft lined up, where you got both of those skill players, right, I'm starting John Brown. I'm throwing John Brown in there over Stephon Diggs. Okay.
So seeing how the Bills offense has worked over the first 2 weeks, and obviously it's small sample size, but over the first 2 weeks, they've both had great fantasy games both weeks. Would you, if you had both, would you consider starting both, even though the Rams have a number 1 corner in Jalen Ramsey?
That's such a good question. And normally I would say no. Just like the Dante Johnson and Juju Smith question, normally I would say no because there's only one football.
Right.
But Josh Allen is leading the league in yards, right? So there's a good chance that, he's still going to keep putting up those numbers, right? He's still going to be throwing for 35 times a game. He's still going to be putting up over 300 yards, and he's going to be passing the ball around, right? Which is awesome to see. He's not just targeting one person. He's not Matt Stafford and Megatron, right? So normally I would say no, but at the same time, you're still looking at even if Stephon Diggs gets 8 receptions and 80 yards, that's still around 17 points in fantasy, right? So, starting him. And if John Brown gets a touchdown and a cool, say, 6 receptions and 100 yards, that right there is 16, 24. That's 24 points, right? So you're looking at a collective of, the mid-40s or high 40s in points. So that is awesome. Awesome. Jeffrey Green coming back in. He's got a question for us. How is the offensive line going to handle, and I can't pronounce his name, Aaron Donald. I gotta push the draw way back. That's a hard one right there. Jeffrey, once again, I apologize. We're going to get you up on the screen. Like I said, Steve, Judge Mathis, he's our producer, and he's the one who puts the comments up on the screen. So I apologize, Jeffrey Green, but we appreciate you so much. How's the offense line going to handle Aaron Donald? Right?
Not by playing him one-on-one. That's for sure. They can't block him one-on-one. That's not going to happen. If they try and block him one-on-one, it's just not going to work. Flat out, they're going to have somebody else come in and chip him. Somebody else is going to have to come in and just double team to block him. They're going to have to figure something out and make him the focal point of like the offensive line, wherever he's at, whether he lines up. I know he's normally on the right side, but I know he kind of rotates through also where he plays any spot. So it's just going to depend, but you can't throw one guy at him consistently and expect to win. He's just too powerful. I think I retweeted like 2 weeks ago the video of him against the Cowboys. If you haven't seen it, the clip is all over Twitter still. He just throws like 3 Cowboys offensive linemen on the same play. So like he's a freak of nature. You can't just have one guy blocking him. Even if it works 1 or 2 plays, they're gonna get tired out, and eventually he's gonna get hit. So I mean, he's a problem.
you can't handle Aaron Donald, right?
Yeah.
And only hope to contain him, right? And that's what they're going to try to do. They're going to try to use the tight ends as a chip block. They're going to try to use the running backs as a chip block just to slow him down, right? The cool thing about Josh Allen is his release is quick, right? It's like low threes, right? It is quick, right? So that is good news. It's almost Aaron Rodgers-esque in how
That
quick
and
Josh Allen is.
I'd be willing to bet that they're pushing. If you get beat by Aaron Donald, try and push him upfield because Allen moves pretty well in the pocket. We all have seen that at this point. So he can step up and then escape. He can just run like away pretty much because he's got the legs to do that. So, I mean, there's multiple ways, but you can't just hope. You got to actually game plan, which we know Sean McDermott. He's good at that.
Yep. We're going to talk about the running backs and their fantasy for the Buffalo Bills real quick, right? While we're doing that, let's get back to asking some fantasy questions. I'm going to say some of them, waiting on Judge to get back. Maybe he can post some up there. But as we talk about Devin Singletary and as we talk about Zach Moss is out. So as we talk about Devin Singletary's uptick in carries and his fantasy value for this game, y'all go ahead and start posting fantasy questions. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button and hit that like. So I mentioned it. Zach Moss is out, right? Normally it's been almost a 50-50 split in the carries, right? 10 attempts here, 10 attempts there. That's what they're averaging. That's what both running backs are averaging. Now that Zach Moss is out, what do we see Devin Singletary? Is it going to go 70-30 with TJ Yeldon? How are we going to see it?
I mean, they're still going to split carries, so it's not like he's getting 100% of them, but they don't have the goal line back anymore. Devin Singletary is going to have to play that role if they want to run with him. But I think that if they get inside the 10-yard line, inside the red zone even, that's when we're going to see more Josh Allen runs with Zach Moss out because they just don't like to run Singletary in those situations. I think Singletary probably gets like 15 carries, though, because he has to see an uptick in his carries. There's no way about it. I'd be comfortable playing him as a flex just because I'm still not certain that he's going to get, even if he gets those 15 carries, still seems like he's trying to get his feet under him a little bit.
I think the run game is slow.
Yeah. So I'd play him as a flex though.
What I'm excited, and I agree with you, flex is probably where I got him. I would say running back 2, running back 3, right, which is low flex.
Yeah, depending on how deep you have your leagues.
Correct. The reason why I'm excited about Devin Singletary is because I think to actually win in this game or get the run game going in this game, you've got to get out on the edge, right? So you start looking at screen passes, right, which are either glorified runs, they're just moving the whole offensive line over, or they're glorified passing yards for Josh Allen. But I'm really excited about the screen game because I think that's how you're going to beat everybody, right? And Devin Singletary is fast as lightning, so he should just absolutely excel in the screen game, and that's going to slow down that pass rush, which is Aaron Donald, right? So that's why I'm excited about him. I think he gets a couple of receptions. I would say about 5 receptions.
I mean he should take up a majority of Zach Moss's receptions, which is not like it was that many. It's like 2 or 3 maybe, but that's still enough. That's an extra couple points. We do have a comment from Creasby S. He said he retired from fantasy, but Yeldon is a sleeper. He can be explosive with the proper attempts. I don't know if I would agree with that on rushing attempts, but in the screen game,
depends on how deep your league is.
Do well, yeah. And if you're in like a 12, maybe 14-man league, maybe then. But I wouldn't really trust Yeldon in. I wouldn't want to put him in unless I was like really hurting bad for running backs, and even then, I wouldn't want to put him in unless it was like a flex option, just because he's not active for a reason in most leagues.
Come on back to fantasy and jump on Buff City podcast. Listen to me talk and Manny talk. One comment that I'm seeing is Marquise Brown, Hollywood Brown, or Motor at the flex. I like Motor better. I really do. I don't know what it is about Hollywood Brown, but I want to see a little bit more before I start just throwing him in my lineup week after week after week. And that might seem like a cop-out media answer, but it just is. And you're not the first person who's asked me about Hollywood Brown. My best friend was bugging me throughout the week about Hollywood Brown and who he should start. And I I don't like his matchup either against Kansas City. Like I don't necessarily like that matchup. So I don't know. I'm going Motor in the flex just because the receptions that he can get and the run game he can get as well. And somebody mentioned, that Rams run D has not been all that good this year, which is, correct. That's why I'm thinking Devin Singletary in the flex is a much better option than, Hollywood Brown.
And just to add one more thing on with Hollywood Brown, the Ravens offense has so much variance in it where they could be a huge rushing attack. They could be a big passing attack that any day. But even if they decide that they're going to be an air raid offense, and I'm air raid because it's not like they're throwing for 300 yards consistently or anything. But even if they decide that they want to focus more on the passing game, they still have enough weapons and they like using their tight ends. And they spread the ball around. They don't have like a clear-cut number one wide receiver on their team. Lamar Jackson does like to spread the ball around a little bit. So until Hollywood Brown has more consistent production, I'm with you. I would probably shy away from him unless the matchup was a little bit better, which this week, I don't know, probably not.
EDY, Eddie. Eddie has a question that just stuck out to me, just huge, right? It says Tyler Boyd or Jarvis Landry. The reason why this stuck out to me is because I literally just had this thought, right? Because they're both on my team, and I was trying to figure out who I was going to put in my flex position. Now, I'm going to tell you my thought process on that. I went Jarvis Landry. He's up against Washington's suspect secondary, right? Now, they have a good front seven, right? I said good. I didn't say great, right? But they have a good front seven, right? But that secondary is suspect. So I went Jarvis Landry just because they struggle in the slot. Jarvis Landry is going to be in the slot. If Baker decides to continue his hot streak after what he did with Cincinnati, then I'm liking Jarvis Landry. But on the flip side of that, Tyler Boyd has been doing so good for us so far. And I say so good, but in week 2 against Cleveland, he put up 7 receptions, 72 yards, 1 touchdown, and got you about 20 points, right? Which is awesome. Okay, and Jarvis Landry hasn't done anything like that yet. He hasn't scored a touchdown. He hasn't cracked the 20s, nothing. But I'm still going with Jarvis Landry just because of that slot option down there in Washington.
So I would actually go the other way. And similar reasons. Like the Eagles don't exactly have the best defense. They've been taken advantage of multiple times this season already. Like they're not the best. You can pass on them. And they have a number one corner, but that number one corner is not going to be guarding Tyler Boyd. He's going to be on AJ Green. So if there's a guy who can get open consistently, it's going to be Tyler Boyd for the Bengals. So I don't hate the idea of playing him, especially since with Burrow, they want to pass the ball.
Yeah.
And especially if they end up not being very good at the beginning of the game, and then you get some garbage time points. Like I think there's more of an opportunity there. Whereas with the Browns against the football team, it sounds so weird to say that, but with the Browns against the football team, if they get up big at the beginning of the game, like if they start fast, then they're not going to throw as much later on in the game, which we all know that there's really no saying if the Browns are going to do that. But I think there's enough variance in their offense too, where you just don't know what you're going to get from Jarvis.
Yep.
Week to week basis.
Yep. I love that. I love the fact that we have 2 different thought process. We're sitting there, we're defending both sides of it. I love that. That gives everybody the opportunity of both sides. Spin 0481 comes out and said, what about AJ Green? Can he come back to his old form? And that comment stuck out to me just for the fact of it makes me sad. It does. Because AJ Green was like my favorite receiver growing up. I loved AJ Green. I just did. And to see him, kind of get older and age start coming up and whatnot. That's what kind of sucks for me. But Joe Burrow is throwing to him. AJ Green is just not catching it, right? And I'm not.
What was it last week? It was 13 targets for 3 receptions. So like the targets are going to be there for him.
Yeah.
Now, whether or not they're able to actually be on the same page, I wouldn't expect 13 targets this week because he'll probably be like trailed by Darius Slay all game.
Oh,
so yeah. I wouldn't expect 13, but like he should have more than 3 receptions.
And what's going to happen is eventually they're going to go away from AJ Green, right? When they start realizing like he's not the dude that he once was, they're going to eventually go away from him. And guess who they're going to go to? Tyler Boyd, right? And you kind of saw that when Cincinnati was trying to come back in the fourth quarter against Cleveland, they started targeting Tyler Boyd a lot, right? He started being that go-to guy, him and Adam Sample, who's the tight end, who, by the way, is a sneaky tight end pick. And if you are looking for maybe a tight end 2 right now, I'd go and pick up Adam Sample because, like what you said, Joe Burrow is looking to throw, right? They are looking to pass all the time. So excited about that. Let's get some questions going. Manny, I appreciate you jumping in the chat and answering some questions while we talk. That's awesome.
We got this one from Becker Dude. For my flex PPR, John Brown versus Rams, Julio Jones versus Bears, or Robbie Anderson versus Chargers. The starters are Amari Cooper versus Seahawks and Keenan Allen versus Panthers. I mean, that's a crazy good wide receiver group. Did you not draft running backs?
And I always wonder how deep some of these guys' like leagues are, right?
It's like an 8 or 10 man league, possibly. I don't know. I mean, that's impressive to get all of those wide receivers.
I do an 8-man league. Somebody called me out and said it's Drew Sample. I don't even know. I don't even remember what I said, dude. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm not a fan. I don't cover that team, but I appreciate you, Chris. Drew Sample. I actually wrote about him. He's a rookie tight end, so I like him. But getting back, what was the
John Brown versus Rams?
John Brown.
Julio Jones versus Bears, or Robbie Anderson versus Chargers?
I'm always going to go Julio Jones right now. I just feel like he's a I don't want to say better receiver, but he's like the option, the man in Atlanta. He's been the man in Atlanta for a while. It's going to transition to I'm blanking
Calvin
on
Ridley. I think so. I think why the reason this is even a question is that Calvin Ridley has just absolutely been on a tear the first 2 games of the season. He was 239 receiving yards and 4 touchdowns already. So he's done 2 both weeks. So like he's doing really well, but he can't keep that up. And eventually it's going to have to transfer back to Julio Jones because Julio Jones is just that good. So I would, if you're not going to go with Julio, I'd probably go with John Brown because the way the Bills are playing right now, it works where he's going to get the targets.
I really like John Brown this week. I do. Yeah. I can't say that enough. I really, 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 really like John Brown this week. Where was that question? Sony Michel versus Raiders, or Adrian Peterson versus Arizona, or Nyheim Hines versus Jets. Which running back has a better day in fantasy? And that was Spin 0481 again. Spin with some good questions today.
Spin did add in that Julio has a hammy injury currently, so he might not be at 100%. So
John Brown.
If that is the case, then stick with John Brown.
Sorry. I'm reading Manny's question talking about Casey earlier. You said Trey Edmonds. Can you say Donald? I hate everybody. It's early, dude. Like, I don't know if y'all know this. Like, look at my eyes. Look at them. Like, I'm tired. I've been drinking coffee. Nap is tired. Y'all bear with me.
You can see it too. I look tired.
If you listen to Buff City on a consistent basis, right, you'll know that Manny has to be like, hey, that's not the name. Right, that's not the name. Like, I can see the dude's face. I can see his jersey number, everything. And Manny would be like, that's not the name. And we'd be like, all right, cool. Let's just go back and re-record and whatnot. So I appreciate you, Manny, coming at me. But Manny saying no excuses. Shut up, Manny. So Sony Michel, I want to answer this question. Sony Michel versus Raiders, Adrian Peterson versus Arizona, or Nyheim Hines versus the Jets. I'm going to take Hines out versus the Jets just because that Jets defensive line is potent, right? They have a really good run defense. Mm-hmm. Then that starts leaving Adrian Peterson versus Arizona, Sony Michel versus Raiders. I don't know.
I would go with Adrian Peterson because I don't trust Sony Michel fully just yet. Just haven't seen enough from him within the way the offense is run right now. I would trust Adrian Peterson more than Sony Michel this week. And Arizona, it's not like Arizona has the best run defense at the moment.
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't trying to cut you off. I was just saying, I was agreeing with you. That's funny. I don't know. Like, I kind of like Sony Michel. Like, I do.
Walk me through it.
Okay, well, and it goes back to what the Raiders were doing when they were with New Orleans, right? The Raiders do have a weird, like, when you sit back and be like, oh, the Raiders have a good defense. Then you start diving into their players. And I like a lot of players on the Raiders defense. But with that being said, Kareem Hunt had a really, really good day in the air, through the air against them.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm sitting.
Sony Michel isn't used as much in that way.
I know James White.
If James White's playing this week,
And
then
that's the
he's
thing.
going to take away from that. And if Burkhead plays, he's going to take away from that.
Yeah.
So, like, the ways that
I think there's a high risk, a huge high risk with Sony Michel, right? And if you're a betting man, right? If you're a betting man and you just want to go high risk, Sony Michel. But if you want to play it safe, if you want those guaranteed points, go ahead and do Adrian Peterson. But I don't know if James White is starting. I don't know if James White is coming back. I know he's going through some family issues, and the TMPs are to James White. But that's where I'm thinking, like, there's a lot of high risk. So I definitely look into that matchup a little bit more.
I think if Cam Newton wasn't on the Patriots, I would actually probably lean more towards Sony Michel, because then he would be the one who, like, he's probably going to get those goal line carries. But with Cam Newton on the team, like we've seen, they love the goal line runs with him. He has 4 rushing touchdowns already. Because
he set the record.
Yeah, I mean he's done 2 each week, and they tried to give him a third, but it didn't work out, which not mad about. But so they're going to run it with Cam Newton when they're on the goal line more often than not, because he's just a hard guy to stop at that point. Like, he's huge. So I don't know if I trust Sony Michel enough to get the right touches within. Like, he'll get touches, but I don't think he'll get the right ones.
The right touches.
Yeah.
Najib Omar. Omar, if I mispronounced your name, I apologize. But he says Logan Thomas or Hawkinson as a tight end flex. And once again, guys, I apologize. I'm not able to throw your comments up there. We are working on that right now to get your comments up there. So just, like I said, bear with us. But Logan Thomas or Hawkinson as a tight end flex. Ooh.
So I haven't paid as much attention to Hawkinson.
I like Hawkinson, but he's not.
Logan Thomas has been getting targets, though. It hasn't all converted into like a ton of receptions, but I think he was targeted like 11 times last week. Haskins loves throwing the ball to him. So you're going to have the possibility to get a lot of points in a PPR league with Logan Thomas. I think Hawkinson has more potential in just a standard league where it's not PPR.
So Hawkinson has been getting about 10, 11, 13 points, right? Logan Thomas on the other side only put up 6 points last week and had 13 points the week prior. So if you're doing the averages of both of them, they both coming out very similar, right?
And that's where the targets aren't necessarily converting with Thomas yet. So, like, you're going to have the potential for points, but also there's a pretty high potential of it's a boomer bust with Logan Thomas. If you want to take a chance, I'd take a chance on him. If you want consistency,
if you want those guaranteed points, I would go Hawkinson, because he's going to get you that 11, 10, 11, 12 points. Josh Webb coming in.
Spin said, wait, so which one did you pick between Sony Michel, Adrian, or Hines? I would go with Adrian Peterson. I
went Sony Michel.
Yeah. Just not Naheem Hines.
Josh Webb coming in strong says Boyd or Gallup in the flex this week. Right, we've had a lot of Boyd questions.
Yeah.
I like Boyd. I like Tyler Boyd. Just like we were talking about with AJ Green. I think Tyler Boyd is going to go and get those targets. I think he is going to be starting to turn into that number one receiver for them, like AJ Green was supposed to be this year. So I like Tyler Boyd, especially in a flex position. What do you think? Because Gallup's a good, like, I know you're probably going to go Gallup. We always disagree.
No, I'm actually not. So one of my buddies has Gallup on his roster, and it's not. He wasn't like talking back and forth about Gallup and Boyd, but it was, I can't remember who the other player was, but it was like, look, Gallup. I think Gallup scored a touchdown last week, right? It was a end of game touchdown, but I think he scored, and he's probably not going to do that 2 weeks in a row with the way their offense is run, the way they can spread the ball around to Amari Cooper. They can go to him. They can go to CeeDee Lamb. So I like Boyd better because he's going to get more consistent targets, and he also he's like a consistent 6-7 catches, 70 yards, and maybe throw a touchdown in there. With Gallup, you have the potential to have like 150 yards receiving, but you also have a pretty high potential to end up with like 30.
Matt M says, is Devontae Adams ruled out for this week? By the way, we do have Judge back. He just texted me, so we are going to get your comments up there.
There we go.
So we're ready to go. So if you've got your comments, go ahead and drop those. We've got about another 20 minutes. We're here, so if you've got fantasy questions, drop them. If you have fantasy trade questions, drop them. If you have any questions at all about fantasy football, go ahead and drop them, right? Because we're here for the next 20 minutes, and you still have time to set your lineup. All right. So is Devontae Adams ruled out this week? I'm checking on it right now. It just
I'm seeing it as doubtful.
It just says doubtful. A hamstring injury, right? I'm gonna go ahead and sit him. Hamstring injuries are serious. If he goes and he does play, you do have that issue of re-injuring that. And with Devontae Adams being like the number one guy, the big dog in Green Bay, I'm gonna go ahead and say they're gonna sit him just so later on in the season they have him healthy.
Let's go to Brandon Lowe's question. Drew Brees versus Green Bay or Tannehill versus Minnesota. He said, is my Titan fandom biasing me, or is Tannehill the correct choice here? I don't like Drew Brees in fantasy this year. He looks old. It's
You're right.
It's hard to say. It's weird to say.
You're right.
I don't even know if I like him as their starting quarterback this year because he can't make the throws that he needs to make on a consistent basis.
We're all thinking it. You just have the guts to say it.
And I don't know if there's actually a better option because like he's not going to turn the ball over as much as obviously Jameis would, but like the big play potential is bigger with Jameis, and then you have the whole Taysom Hill thing. So I don't know what they do, but I don't like him as a fantasy option because he just can't throw the ball the same way he used to.
You know why Drew Brees versus Green Bay is probably not the greatest matchup? Because Drew Brees doesn't have anybody to throw to but Kamara.
Yeah, true.
I mean, that just is. And as with Ryan Tannehill, and so Brandon Lowe's a good friend of mine, and he asks me questions all the time, and I tell him like constantly, right? I like Ryan Tannehill. He is a game manager that he's almost like Alex Smith-esque, right? So Alex Smith was a really good game manager. Ryan Tannehill is a really good game manager. And you could see, right, sometimes Alex Hill will go out there and win those games for you. Sometimes he wouldn't, right? Ryan Tannehill's the same guy, right? Sometimes he'll go out there and he'll win those games just by himself. He doesn't need to pound the rock, right, with the king, right? He doesn't need to do that sometimes, right? Other times he does, right? But against Minnesota, right, Minnesota is playing just bad. Minnesota is playing bad, right? And I like Ryan Tannehill, especially off the play action, especially to Corey Davis, especially.
And Minnesota doesn't have any like really good corners at the moment. They have young corners. They lost, I think, 2 of their top 3 corners in this past offseason, so they're struggling in their secondary.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, they are. So I'm going Ryan Tannehill. Great question, Low. There was one thing that I saw. Oh, the one thing that I do want to say is, yes, we mentioned it earlier in the podcast. If you're just now waking up, if you're looking for it, Kim Jones on Twitter, that's at Kim Jones Sports, broke that Trey Edmonds and Matt Milano is a go. I don't know. That's grammar. I let Adam take care of my grammar.
There a go. I don't know.
There a go.
Yeah.
Argo.
I don't know. I'm not a grammar guy either.
Who cares? Bill's by $1 billion. So Edmonds and Milano are expected to play today, which is awesome news. AK Cash says, as a weekly flex between Myles Gaskin, CeeDee Lamb, Jarvis Landry, Devontae Parker, Noah Fant, who do you guys like? 10-team league. That's an awesome question. As a weekly flex, though, like, are we not interchanging those players?
Yeah, I mean it's all matchup based.
Yeah.
Right now, I like Fant or Parker right now because there's not many other people to throw to. Like for Miami, they have Devontae Parker, they have Gesicki, and then they have Preston Williams. And I know they played already, so like he doesn't apply to this week at this point. But I like him on a weekly basis, possibly not even as a flex option. And then Fant, I would start Fant as a tight end unless you have like Travis Kelce. Yeah, because like he's putting up points right now. He's getting targets. They don't have Cortland Sutton. So even though he doesn't have he doesn't have Drew Lock anymore. We don't even know what type of production they're going to get out of the quarterback. But the saying a tight end is a quarterback's best friend is there for a reason, because even if you're a bad quarterback, you should be able to get the ball to the tight end because they're a good outlet.
And I love Myles Gaskin. Like I get it.
Yeah.
I'm a Bills fan, but like I like that kid. I really do. Like
he's getting the touches.
He is, and he runs angry. He can do things in the passing game. Like he was making one-handed catches. Like I like him. I like him a lot. So I don't hate starting him as a running back 2 option, right, or even a flex option. But as a weekly flex, you need to be looking up matchups. You need to be going in between them as well. Let's go ahead and get some couple more fantasy questions because we still got time.
Josh Allen or Dak this week? Yeah, that one. Josh Allen or Dak this week. Yeah, I mean, Josh Allen, I don't know if he's number 1 or number 2, but I believe him and Russell Wilson are the number 1 and number 2 fantasy quarterbacks at this point, and it might depend on scoring, so that might just be my league. But he's put up points, and you can see the way the offense is running. They want it to be a passing offense. So I'd start Josh Allen until he gives you a reason not to.
Here's the thing with Dak, right? Josh Allen is going to put up about 27 points on average, maybe closer to 30. But with Dak, yes, he went off. He went off last week for 450 yards, 1 touchdown, and 39 points. I'm sure he had some rushing scores as well. He did. He had 3 touchdowns in rushing. Yeah, he had 3 touchdowns in rushing, which is fine, right? But Josh is going to be the more consistent. It is hilarious to say, right? Josh is going to be the most consistent fantasy quarterback you're going to have. So start Josh Allen in fantasy.
Mm-hmm. Ethan has a comment, and I think he put this in there earlier, and we didn't get to it. So Ethan Waldron, Leonard Fournette, or David Johnson. Where are you going with that, Casey?
That's such a good question because I like David Johnson as a receiver as well. And David Johnson's not doing bad. Like I got killed on Twitter for saying it, but I was like, hey, David Johnson, and this was the first game of the season. I was like, hey, if you don't have David Johnson and he's available in your league, you might want to go get him. And somebody was like, how is David Johnson not available in your league? You must be playing with 2 people. And I'm like, bro, like, did we all expect David Johnson to turn into 2016 David Johnson? Was that what people were drafting? Right. So I got absolutely just bodied on Twitter, and I just couldn't reply. Right. But I like David Johnson. I don't necessarily trust Fournette yet. Like, sure, he had a good game against
he had a big week.
Carolina.
I think they're in similar scenarios though, where like they're going to be variable, or that is not the right word or phrasing for it, but their production is going to be variable. So it's not going to be consistent production from either of them, where like Fournette could have a big week because of goal line carries, and then David Johnson could have a big week because he gets, extra production in the passing game from screenplays and whatnot, but they're not going to do it consistently on a week-to-week basis. So I think it depends on their matchups.
And this is a hard one, right? Because Leonard Fournette is going against Denver, and David Johnson is going against Pittsburgh.
And
so
I don't like that
really
matchup.
strong defenses. Yeah,
I don't like the matchup.
Any other? Yeah, do you have any other running backs that you can do, Ethan?
Yeah,
because I don't like those matchups.
Let's go to Cody's. He says Valdez-Scantling or Cole Beasley.
That's a good one. Cole,
I think it depends on who's. I think it depends on if Devontae Adams plays or not. Because if Devontae Adams doesn't play, I would say Scantling 1,000%, because he becomes that number 1 or at the very worst number 2 option. So I think it depends on who plays.
I like him as well, especially looking at his overall production. Minnesota, he had 4 receptions, 96 yards, and 1 touchdown. Against Detroit, he had 3 receptions, 64 yards for 9 points, no touchdowns. But it looks like he's probably going to get you those 11 to 15 on average in points in fantasy. And of course, I go off a standard PPR league. So if anybody's like, well, those points don't make sense, I go off a standard PPR league. I play in ESPN fantasy. So that's what I'm basing everything off of. But I like him. I would go him over Cole Beasley just because Buffalo, they have a ton of options, right? So they don't necessarily are going to be force feeding Cole Beasley constantly. If you play in a PPR league, that's kind of what you want. If Josh keeps throwing like he did the last 2 weeks, he can make up the fantasy points from less rushes. Bills are better than the Jets, and you know it. Had that question or that statement, rather, that was a statement. But you're absolutely right. And he told us earlier in the year, I'm not going to run as more. And everybody was like, yeah, okay. No, he's going to be throwing more, and it looks like he's definitely going to do that. So yeah, absolutely, he's going to make up for those rushes or less rushes. If you're just now tuning in, go ahead and smash that like button. Make sure that you're subscribing to Buffalo Fanatics. We don't have much more time here on the pregame show for you. Nap, although, is going to be here all day. Apparently, he's going to be ready to go. He's got the jersey in the background. I will be watching off my phone as well, because those are the good luck charms. If you have any fantasy questions, let's go ahead and get them up right now. I want to talk about the spread real quick, right?
Okay.
I want to talk about the spread. For those that don't know, I host a Bills fantasy football related podcast and a gambling podcast called Buff City. It releases every Saturday. And the guy that I follow is Nap Knows Bills, and he releases on Fridays, which show everybody your shirt. We haven't even talked about that.
Oh yeah, we haven't mentioned this at all. I'm going the wrong way. There we go.
That's Stephon Diggs' first touchdown that Nap has on his shirt. So anyways, Nap comes out on Fridays, so make sure that y'all go back and listen to our podcast. Nap does bold predictions. I do fantasy football, Bills related, and gambling. So I want to talk about gambling real quick. The Bills are, depending on where you lock them in, the Bills are minus 2.5 or minus 3.5. I locked them in at minus 2.5. We've got it down there at the bottom that are scrolling. It says Buffalo Bills minus 2.5 versus LA Rams. I took the Bills minus 2.5, right? But I want to talk about both sides of it. So I took the Bills minus 2.5 because I like that. I could see them beating the Rams by a touchdown. On the flip side of that, right, now that Higbee and Edmonds are back, I don't necessarily like the Rams plus 2.5, right? I don't like them to get within 3 points. But when they were out, I did like that aspect of it, right? And for those of you who are like, oh, are you taking the Rams? No, I'm taking the Rams by the spread, right? So then there's a difference. I don't want the Rams to win. I want them to come within 3 points, right? But now with Edmonds and Milano, yep, you heard it here first. Edmonds and Milano, right, are in. I'm definitely taking the Buffalo Bills minus 2.5. I think that we win by more than a touchdown.
Yeah, and that's you're going more than a touchdown.
Well, I mean, 7 points or more, right? I don't see the Rams getting with. Yeah, I don't see them getting with them.
Yeah, I put this out on my podcast for Friday's episode where I said, like, because I recorded a little bit earlier, I didn't know whether Milano and Edmonds were going to play. I said if Milano and Edmonds play, take the Bills with the spread. If they don't play, in that scenario, I would have even considered taking the Rams, just straight up. But that's a different story because they're not. We don't have to worry about that. So Milano and Edmonds are playing, so I would take the Bills spread.
Bubba Burns comes in. He says, how can you use a sports book in Buffalo? Obviously, you want to do everything that is legal, right? And you want to be of age, of gambling age. And of course, that's a disclaimer. I just want to say that. But I, here over at Buffalo Fanatics, we are actually sponsored by mybookie.ag, and that's mybookie.ag. You can go to that website. Like I said, as long as you're following all the legal guidelines for everything, and you can use promo code, and that's promo code BuffCity, BuffCity, and that's just a humble plug right there. But if you do that, MyBookie will match 100% of your first deposit and then give you $15. So say you throw in $100, MyBookie will be like, here's $100, and they'll be like, oh, well, here's another $15. And all you have to do is just use our promo code, and that's BuffCity, BuffCity. And we've got a couple more questions, and we're going to get to it, and then we're going to get on out of here. But Dom says, do we see Josh Allen rushing for more than 75 yards today? No. I don't.
No, I don't. I see him going over like 40.
Yeah.
Because I think he's going to have to get out of the pocket more. With Aaron Donald, he's going to have to get out of the pocket more. So I could see him getting over 40. 75 is a lot for a quarterback. I don't care if it's Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson. It's not. 75 doesn't happen very often for a quarterback.
Yeah. And he's going to be passing more. Especially in a soft zone coverage.
Yeah.
AK Cash said, follow up on my team. I had Barkley, so I picked up Gaskin and Dion Lewis. You guys like Gaskin better going forward? Yeah, I do. I like him. And Nap's making that face. Nap, tell me why you don't him.
It's not that I don't
Dion
like
Lewis.
it. It's that I'm not sure. It's that I'm not sure because I know the Giants just picked up Devontae Freeman, but
yes,
he hasn't been playing. He's not in game shape at all, and Dion Lewis could be very effective in the screen game. And we know the Giants have pretty much no offensive line, so the screen game is going to be a good way for them to get the passing game going. And I'm honestly, I don't know if there's a good option there because you don't know what the Dolphins are going to be doing on a week-to-week basis. I think I'd probably agree that I'd go with Gaskin, but I think Dion Lewis has that boom or bust potential. So it's another scenario where one of them is going to be a little bit more consistent. One of them could have the potential to have a bigger day.
I would say this because you made a good point. Like Dion Lewis, let's see what happens today in today's game, right? Because Gaskins has already played, right? And now Dion Lewis, and sure, like you said, Devontae Freeman's not in game shape, which is completely different than just being in shape, right? So let's see how Dion Lewis does this game, and then we can kind of look at his matchup next week and whether or not you like Gaskins over that. That's what I would do. Personally, I like Gaskins. I like the way he runs. I know you know what you're going to get with Dion Lewis. So it just all depends on how the Giants utilize him and deploy him. So I like Gaskins, but wait until after this game, and we'll kind of see. We've got about 3 more minutes. I want to get a couple more fantasy predictions or fantasy questions out there. So if you've got a fantasy question, go ahead and drop it.
Yeah, real quick, Spin 0481 kind of had a reply to when I said that Josh probably won't go over 75 because didn't Josh run for nearly 100 yards 3 weeks in a row his rookie season? I think he did it 2 weeks in a row and then got close. So I think you're right, but it hasn't happened since. And I believe he was the first quarterback to have as many yards rushing over a 3-week span as he did. So once again, it's just not something that happens very often. It's not that it's out of the question that it's impossible. It's just if you're trying to say, like, will he get this? The likelihood is no.
Yeah, and I like him throwing the ball more. Obviously, like he's leading the league in passing yards right now. So I do like that. I think he was right when he said, hey, I'm going to pass the ball more this year. We're going to take, let's see, what time is it? Oh, it's 9:58, 10:58. We're going to take, let's do more questions.
Issa G. Take Issa G's.
Issa G. You like Gage versus Falcons or Woods versus Bills today? No, I don't like Woods versus Bills. I'm thinking Robert Woods and Trey White matchup. I don't like that at all.
Well, Trey White's not following. Trey White stays on his side. Trey White stays on his side.
I mean that's fair, right? That's fair. I still don't like it. I still don't like him versus the Bills, and I've got him as a sit-em. I think it's going to be the Cooper Kupp show today. And I also think Van Jefferson is going to get in there as well. That's why I'm not liking. I think Robert Woods is going to have things that don't show up on the stat that does not matter to fantasy. I think he's going to be really good in the run game as far as blocking. Right, I see him doing a lot of that, but I don't see him catching a lot of balls. But of course, I've been wrong multiple times. I'm so excited to be wrong again today. But
Robert Woods is also a consistent 5 to 7 catches. 50 to 70 yards, and then every now and then he has that big day. But he's like a consistent double-digit point guy if you're not looking for 20 points a game. I think that I would probably go with Woods just because of that consistency, and you don't necessarily know if Gage is going to get enough touches. And it's not like it's not if you get Robert Woods against Levi Wallace a couple times in a row, he's going to get the catches. It's going to happen. And I don't know. I'm also a big Robert Woods fan, so I would stick with him personally.
That's fair.
But
Edward Steeper, He asked this question last night when I was on the Overdue YouTube channel, and I told him, I said, if you tune in, I will answer this question. And Edward Seifer come up and he says, Fitzgerald or Beasley, right? And that's a good question. I probably should have studied that. I don't necessarily like Beasley this week, right? Because there's so many different touches in it, and he's got that thumb and hip. He is a go, right? But I don't necessarily like him. With Fitzgerald, sure, you've got D-Hop there, but Fitz is still the man, right?
And
so
Christian
I'm
Kirk
probably
is
going
out.
to lean towards Fitzgerald.
Christian Kirk is out
that
too,
point,
so that elevates him.
Yeah. At that point, I'm going Larry Fitz, man. I am definitely going Larry Fitz. I want to look and see how many fantasy points Fitzgerald is putting up this week, or not this week, but consistently. I mean, he's putting up the 7 to 12 points, so which is not bad. Beasley, I think, is actually lower than that, or probably around the same. But like you said, Christian Kirk is out. I like Larry Fitzgerald.
Yep. And that I think that's got to be we're overtime, I think. So that's got to be the last one that we covered. I know I appreciate. I know Casey appreciates everybody for tuning in and for sending in your questions. Definitely keep doing this. We're going to be doing this every single week, and you guys definitely kind of make the show, because if we don't have the questions, then I mean, we're just going to be looking at each other. And no offense, Casey, but I don't want to just sit on the screen staring at you with nothing to talk about.
I'm a pretty man. Make sure to go ahead and follow us on Twitter. Here are our Twitter names right there at the bottom of the screen. Make sure that you listen to our podcast. Nap comes out on Fridays. He does predictions, both predictions. I come out on Saturdays. I follow him, and I do fantasy football and gambling. So go ahead and check that out, only on the Buffalo Fanatics Podcasting Network.
Go Bills.
Welcome to Fast Fanatics Bills Rams edition. Everything you need to know about Sunday's game in just over 2 minutes. The spread on Sunday favors the home Bills. They are 2.5-point favorites. The over-under on points is a relatively high 47. On the injury front, the Bills will be without running back Zach Moss, linebacker Delshon Phillips, and tight end Dawson Knox. Look for TJ Yeldon and Lee Smith to be active for the first time this season, but for Devin Singletary and Tyler Kroft to carry the load. Linebackers Tremaine Edmonds and Matt Milano are questionable, along with nickel cornerback Teron Johnson. Milano was a full participant all week, while Edmonds and Johnson were limited. If they cannot go, Tyrell Dodson, AJ Klein, Cam Lewis, and Dean Marlowe will see a bulk of the work in their absence. On the Rams side, a much shorter list. Out is rookie running back Cam Akers. Expect Darrell Henderson to be the bell cow, as Malcolm Brown is also dealing with a thumb injury. Number 2 corner Darius Williams is also questionable with an ankle. His replacement would likely be cornerback David Long. The weather in Orchard Park is expected to be 81 degrees and partly cloudy. High winds of 10 to 20 miles per hour is expected, which could cause an issue for both teams' rookie kickers. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to The Tailgate, My name is Steve Mathis of the Bills Guys Multicast. You can find me on Twitter at Judge Mathis. And with my typical co-host, Dave Tilton, on vacation this week, I have the honor and the privilege of being joined by Kyle Knapp. You can find him on Twitter at KnappKnowsBills. His podcast airs every Friday on the Buffalo Fanatics Podcasting Network, and he hosts the show right before this, so you're probably already used to him being here. How you doing today, Kyle?
I am. You know what? I'm waking up a little bit more with every single second. I got my energy drink going, and I'm good to go. Let's do this.
I'm having some company over for the game today, so I spent the last hour cleaning the house to make it look presentable for some guests that I have coming over. I'm not used to having guests for Bills games. I have a couple of friends in town, so they're coming over for the game. But yeah, this is a really weird feeling. We're going up against a very good Rams team. Like, they're not a great team by any means. They're not an elite team by any means, but they're a very good football team.
By far the most talented team we've played so far this year.
And I feel confident. I don't know about you, but I feel confident. Do you feel confident?
I do. I think it's going to be closer than we probably want it to be. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I'm confident, especially now that we got the news that Milano and Edmonds are going to be playing. Mm-hmm. I'm much, much more confident after hearing that the Bills should be able to come out with a dub this week.
Yeah, and that report obviously came from Kim Jones of the NFL Network, and we're trust me, believe me, for the next hour, I'm gonna be scrolling my Twitter feed every 2 seconds, looking for those inactives, and when those inactives drop, we will talk about them. But again, it is expected that Milano and Edmonds will play. Do you think that Milano and Edmonds are going to be relatively healthy? Or do you think that there's any way that these reports from Kim Jones or their health, like, do you think they're going to be their typical selves, or do you think you'll see a limited workload?
I mean, I would personally expect a limited workload just because, a hamstring injury with Milano, you're going to want to probably not have him go 100% of the time. I mean, if he was limited in practice, I know he was a full participant on Friday, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was a full participant all week, Matt Milano was.
Oh, he was all week. Okay, so he was, but Edmonds wasn't. So limited, I would still probably want to keep him on, maybe not like 100% of the snaps, but like keep him on a little bit of a snap count, maybe play him like 75% of the time, because even if he only plays 75% of the time, he's going to make so much of a difference in those snaps that he gets that like it completely changes the game. And with Edmonds, I mean, it completely depends on if he is healthy. With him being limited in practice, he's probably like 75% healthy. So I would play him on a snap count too. But just anything that we can get from them is going to be such a big upgrade from what we would have gotten from anybody else. So just the fact that they're playing, I mean, it elevates the entire defense.
Another update from not Kim Jones, but Kimberly Martin. Per source, Bills linebackers Tremaine Edmonds' shoulder and Matt Milano hamstring are expected to play today. And cornerback Teron Johnson is also expected to be active versus the LA Rams. So the Bills will have their slot corner to go up against the likes of Cooper Kupp.
That is very good news.
While we wait for the official injury report, let's have a couple segments here and do some over-unders. And of course, we want you guys in the comments section to be as involved as you always are. Give us your overs, give us your unders, give us your explanation. Throw some over-unders at us, and we'll mix them in with what we're doing. But I want to start with Josh Allen. Does he go over or under 300 yards today?
I think he goes over. I said it on my show on Friday. I think just the way the offense is rolling right now, the way the running game has been, like, it's not like we've been getting a heavy rushing attack at the moment. So for the Bills to win against a Rams team that can score points, I think Allen's going to kind of have to go over 300 to get those yards. And I even kind of preface that with, like, he has to go over 300 total yards, so that I would say rushing and passing. But I would look for 300 passing just because that's going to be kind of what's necessary to get the offense going. And they've been such a heavy passing attack so far that I don't see that changing.
Yeah, and everyone in the comment section right now taking the over here, feeling pretty confident. James FX90 even goes as far as saying, we're worried for the wrong reasons. Our defensive line is incredible. Our offensive line has been consistent, and as long as Allen is on point, we got this game won. So I like what Issa G has to say here.
Mhm.
He says over just barely, because if you look at the pattern of the two games we played so far, because it's a small sample size of this new look Bills offense, right? Some of it's been to a 4-8-4-1 goes a little crazy here, saying follow the pattern and use those for 5-18. But if you look at it against the New York Jets, they played softer zone, and you look at what the Dolphins did. They played man to man, and when the Dolphins played man to man, we tried to burn by him and beat him deep. And when the Jets played softer zone, we tried to just dink and dunk and just take what the defense gave us. I think you're going to see more of a New York Jets approach. Like, we expect the Bills to run the ball more this week because the Rams are weak against the run. But I think in order for Allen to get his yards, in order for this offense to keep the ball moving against a Rams defense that runs this very soft zone that they run, it could be another New York Jets game where he throws the ball 40 times, but only averages 7-8 yards a throw, which keeps him in the low 300s, but he threw a ton to get there.
Not to mention the Bills are also going up against the best corner that they faced this year with Jalen Ramsey. Despite what anybody wants to say about him and things he said in the past or trying to compare him with Trey White, he is one of the top corners in the league, and he is also a lockdown corner in his own right. So he's going to limit whoever he's guarding. He's going to limit their touches on those specific plays. So that poses a difficulty that the offense is going to have to get through.
Yeah, it was really interesting because we played Byron Jones last week and Xavion Howard, but Xavion's coming off that ACL. He's still on a pitch count, and Byron Jones went out quick last week, so we never really got to see Stephon Diggs go one-on-one with Jones. We got a question here from Mystic Runes, and I'm going to go this to you because I'm going to hand this off to you because you're our designated fantasy guy here. Singletary or McKinnon? And then we're going to get into some Devin Singletary over-unders.
So I have McKinnon on my roster. I picked him up because I had a vacancy. I'm playing McKinnon because, the 49ers have so many injuries. They don't have Garoppolo, so they're probably going to focus on the running game, even though Raheem Mostert is out. That's why you want to play McKinnon.
And Tevin Coleman.
And Tevin Coleman. So, he's going to get enough touches in that offense. And with their offense, with a Kyle Shanahan offense, he runs the kind of offense where it doesn't matter who's getting the touches. Yeah. They're going to get yards.
Yeah.
And so, you have to play it.
And I don't know, Mystic Runes, who your flex is, but I consider making Singletary your running back and McKinnon your flex. Yeah. And while we're on the conversation of fantasy, because I know this is the Bills portion now, but if you're desperate for a running back this week, Jeff Wilson, pick up Jeff Wilson. He'll be number 2 behind Jerick McKinnon, and they love to run the ball there in San Francisco. Jeff Wilson's had some great games in the past, so Jeff Wilson could be a solid pickup there. So let's get into Devin Singletary, and let's talk about. He says flex is DK Metcalf, so no, don't do that.
Yeah.
Okay. But Devin Singletary, does he get over or under 18 touches this week? That's a combination of rushes and passes. I did 15 on our pregame show before we heard Zach Moss was hurt. Before we knew he was out, when it was just he's limited. Now that he's out, is it 18? I'm bumping it up. Over under 18 touches this week for Devin Singletary.
I think he goes over because he's going to accumulate Zach Moss's rushing attempts. If anything, he's probably TJ Yeldon will take away some of his touches in the passing game, but he's not going to take away many of the rushing attempts. So I think I would say over. Just because he's going to get that combination. He's going to be the bell cow back this week, is what Devin Singletary would be. So I would say he gets over, probably 15 rushing attempts, maybe 16, 17, and then he'll get a couple of catches because they've been using him in the screen game recently, which I've loved to see. So I would say over.
I'm going to cop out here. I'm going to take the push. I'm going to say he gets exactly 18 touches today. I'm going to say he gets exactly 18 because I think you're spot on. I think he's going to get 13, 14, 15 touches on the ground. Yeah. And then I think he'll get 3 or 4 in the passing game, 2, 3, 4 in the passing game. So it's going to hover right around that 18 mark. I think it's going to be 70-30 Devin Singletary to TJ Yeldon. But with that being said, we both think he's going to get right around that 18 to 20 range of touches this week. Does he go over or under 100 all-purpose yards for Devin Singletary today?
So this is tough because actually I had the prediction on my show that he would have 75. He would be over 75 rushing yards. I'm gonna give him. Now I'm gonna go under. And it's only because I don't know how well he's going to do in the screen game, just because like it's been up and down.
Mm-hmm.
He can get a lot of yards, but if it's not set up well, which we've seen the Bills' offensive line does not always set up the screen game the best, he could end up with like 3 or 4 catches for 12 yards. So I'm going to say he goes under 100 yards, which is not ideal, but I think it'll be close. That's going to be a really tight one.
Yeah, it's really crazy because I think everyone, and I think you yourself included, wants to see this guy break out, right? We want to see the Buffalo Bills feed him the rock, but I just don't know if that's going to be their philosophy. But you know what? I'm going to go out on a limb here. I'm going to take the over. I think, and it's a combination of things. It's a combination of, you mentioned Jalen Ramsey on the outside, the boundary of that defense. Stephon Diggs could have a more limited role this week because who knows how much we're gonna have to target our shots at Stephon Diggs. We're not going to be able to have a heyday to Stephon Diggs this week. So that might bring some more touches to other people, or Josh Allen might look to other people as opposed to trying to force feed a ball to Stephon Diggs like he was last week, because he was making some tight throws to Stephon Diggs last week.
Yeah.
Whenever he was in doubt, he just chucked it up to Stephon Diggs, which you love to see. But I just don't know if you can get away with that with a guy like Jalen Ramsey on him.
No, it's you're not going to be able to do that consistently.
Yeah. So you got a guy like Devin Singletary, and the Rams linebackers are just not very athletic, and their edge players are just not very athletic. And I don't know if their linebackers can cover Devin Singletary in space. And we saw week 1 against the Jets, Devin Singletary ran a wheel route, and Josh Allen threw a pretty ball to him. But it was the Jets linebacker, I can't remember the name of the linebacker who made the play, but made a really nice pass breakup, a really nice, tip the football away. We could see some wheel routes to Stephon or to Devin Singletary this week. We could see just some dump offs to Devin Singletary out of the backfield. And with the lack of athleticism from the linebackers, I think that Devin Singletary can do some work after the catch once he gets that ball. So if he breaks 2 or 3 big ones and then gets 15 more touches, I'm gonna take the over, even though I'm not confident in it.
And it was. I mean, it's a close one. I took the under, but like I don't want to be right about that.
Yeah,
I hope that I'm wrong about the under. I hope that everybody can just like tweet me after and be like, "Dude, you said under, and he went way over." Like James FX90 said, he's gonna get 200 all-purpose or 200 total yards, and I would love to be that wrong where like he gets way over 100.
Mm-hmm. We got Issa G saying under about 18 touches. And he averages about 5 a touch. That's 90 yards. It's super close, though. So, yeah, thank you for doing the math for us. We got someone in the comment section saying, is there anyone else's stream kind of boggy? Let us know if your stream is buffering or kind of boggy, and we'll try to get it fixed or do anything we need to. We've been having some issues with our platform lately, but it should at least, it looks like at least on my end running smooth. I have it up on my television over here, and I'm working on the computer over here. So hopefully it's good for you. If not, maybe try to refresh the screen, and we'll do everything we can on our end to give you the best visual experience as well. Let's talk about Stephon Diggs a little bit, because Dominic 272-36-406 says, do we see Diggs as a major role and win today, or do we see him getting locked up against the Ram DB? So let's get to it, and let's start some over-unders on Stephon Diggs. I'm start with this one. Stephon Diggs over under 8 targets today.
Targets, I think, is 8. I think we can go over 8 targets because Josh Allen wants to get him the ball, and we've seen that through 2 weeks. He's going to get the targets. I don't think that I think the production is going to be difficult. We'd probably see a couple of pass breakups, but I think we'd probably see like 9 or 10 targets to Diggs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm willing to take the over there, or at least the push, because I think that, just like week 1 against the Jets, we had 9 targets against the Jets, and he had 8 catches, a lot of soft zone. That's sort of the crux of the Rams defense, is they like to play back. They like their corners to play back. They like to play the zone. And we've seen Josh Allen on a number of occasions chuck those like underneath balls to Stephon Diggs and get him the football. Just get the ball in his hands just so people know he's there. So I appreciate Brian Daboll doing that, so people realize that Stephon Diggs is there, makes the safety creep over, does all those things you need to do to open things up for everyone else. So I'm confident that he gets those 8 or 9 targets.
And to add one more thing on with the targets, I don't think he's going to be shadowed all day long by Jalen Ramsey, because we saw week 1 Jalen Ramsey, and I said this in the last hour. We saw Jalen Ramsey did not shadow Amari Cooper the entire game.
Mm-hmm.
So even though he is the type of corner who does that most of the game, I don't think that we're going to see that every single play where he just follows Diggs all around the field, because you're still going to have to worry in certain lineups, in certain formations, that like the guy that they want Jalen Ramsey to be covering will be John Brown in some scenarios. So I think that there's certain scenarios where they could take advantage of Diggs not being shadowed by Jalen Ramsey.
Out of curiosity, do you know if he was covering Gallup or CeeDee Lamb in those situations?
Gallup.
Okay, so maybe they put him on like the bigger guy. Maybe that's something they were trying to do. But that's really interesting. So yeah, if the second that Stephon Diggs loses Jalen Ramsey and shakes Jalen Ramsey, and it's either Darius Jackson, who's 5'9", 186 and dealing with an ankle injury, or it's David Long, the former Michigan corner, who's known as like a really good aggressive press man corner playing in a zone scheme there in Los Angeles. The second one of those two guys get on Stephon Diggs, just audible play action bomb.
Yeah.
Don't care. Bomb it. Like, just let it rip. But speaking of letting it rip and bombing it when Jalen Ramsey is not on Stephon Diggs, we mentioned the targets. We think he's going to get his 8 or 9 targets, but under 100 yards. That's the question here.
Under.
Yeah, I'm
in
feeling,
a heartbeat. Yeah,
I'm feeling pretty confident in the under as well. Let us know what you think in the comment section for Stephon Diggs Day. I think you're going to see a stat line eerily close to what he had against the New York Jets. I think against the New York Jets, he had 8 for
89, I think.
89. I think this week you could see something like 6 for 75 or 6 for 8. Something where he has a solid impact on the game, and he still gets his numbers to help him push towards, like, I mean, this dude's on pace for 12, 13, 1,400 yards this year receiving. It's been a while since we've been able to say that about a Bills wide receiver. So it's absolutely incredible. I mean, he was on pace for 94 catches, or he had 94 targets last year in Minnesota, and he's on pace for like 140 something in Buffalo. So it's absolutely crazy the pace he's on. And I think he'll have a game that helps him keep those stats padded. And to help him put up that Pro Bowl year, that All-Pro year that you look for, but also open things up for other people. So yeah, I'm going to take the under as well. A lot of other people taking the over/under. Here's a tough one: Diggs, Robbie Anderson, Hopkins. I have to sit one of them. I don't think you can sit Diggs. I don't.
Yeah, I don't think you can either.
You got to
sit Robbie Anderson.
Robbie. You got it. Like, I feel like you got it. It's just.
I think in that scenario, you look at who are the true number ones, and I don't look at Robbie Anderson as a true number one. I know he's getting the yards currently, but he's the type of guy who he could end up with a 30-yard receiving day, even though that offense is trying to be pass happy.
Robbie Anderson, I think, is a less refined John Brown, where he's got that speed that John Brown has down the field, and I think he's like a 1B, but he'll never be a 1A. So, you got to sit Robbie in that situation. I think it was not Boomer. Yeah, it was Boomer. It was Boomer Esiason on Showtime. I didn't actually see the show, but I saw the clip of Boomer Esiason saying, "Hey, look at what John Brown what Stephon Diggs and DeAndre Hopkins are doing for their new teams, and look how their old teams are doing, because Houston and Minnesota are struggling right now." And Spin 0481 says, "I want your fantasy team if that's the debate you are
having." We've been getting a lot of questions where it's like all of these top tier guys. I'm like, how do you draft all of these guys? Do you play with like 6 people?
Yeah, and it's interesting. I dropped 200 points for the first time in my fantasy league this week, so I'm riding high in fantasy right now. I dropped like 215 on a team this week, so it was fun.
That's a good day.
Yeah, I had a super flex with Josh Allen and Dak Prescott, a super flex league.
Okay.
So I had them they each gave me 50 points.
Yeah, that's solid.
Then I had like CeeDee Lamb, Christian McCaffrey, it was not Alvin Kamara. That was the different league. I think I went over in two leagues this week. It was a fun week for me in fantasy. I don't usually do well in fantasy. I'm not a great fantasy player, but I want to start watching your guys' show more often. But let's talk about John Brown a little bit, because John Brown he's on a little bit of a streak here. 2 straight games with a touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
Can he make it 3? Over under 1 touchdown for John Brown today.
Push.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to predict 2 from him, but I think once we get into the red zone area, that's where like Diggs is going to be I think that's where Diggs definitely gets shadowed by Ramsey, like for sure. And that's where you take advantage of John Brown having, I'm not going to say like a complete scrub guarding him, but somebody who can't stay with him, because he's a good route runner where if he's not being guarded by a top tier corner, he should be able to get open. And I mean, Allen's going to be able to take advantage of that because they have that connection.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I mean, look at the matchups. Someone said, I love our matchups this week. And I'm with whoever said I love our matchups this week because, you know, Diggs can go toe to toe with Ramsey. And I'm still confident that Josh Allen can get him his touches. Yeah. And then you look at the other side of the field. It's either Darius Jackson, who I mentioned, 5'9", 186 with an ankle injury, former UDFA. He's been a solid player for the Rams. Don't get me wrong. You know, Brandon Staley comes from that Vic Fangio tree. He can make some guys work. He can create a decent system. But still, it's John friggin' Brown, like a savvy veteran. It's kind of like the first week of the season when Jerry Hughes went up against Mekhi Becton.
Yeah.
Or the second week when he went up against Austin Jackson. Like, these guys are good prospects, but Jerry Hughes has been around the league. He knows what he's doing. So John Brown knows what he's doing going up against these corners. And you either have a small corner with an ankle injury going up against John Brown, or you have a backup who's more comfortable in a man scheme playing zone in David Long, who's very stiff, who can't turn his hips and run down the field with the likes of John Brown. And I know they're playing zone and they'll drop some safeties, but to me, the advantage is in that number 2 corner spot, attacking that number 2 corner with John Brown or Stephon Diggs or Gabe Davis, whoever happens to be on that number 2 corner. And I'm really excited that we have a quarterback now that doesn't just throw to open receivers.
Right.
He doesn't scan the field for open receivers, find someone and throw it to someone who's open. We have a quarterback now, kind of like what Fitzpatrick did to us last week, where if there's a weakness on this defense, I'm confident that our quarterback can force feed a ball in a certain direction to attack a mismatch.
Yeah, yeah. And, I mean, once again, John Brown, great route runner. And he hasn't been getting the respect nationally, but we've heard Diggs mention it multiple times through his short time in Buffalo, how John Brown is one of the underrated guys who like needs to get more attention by the national media because John Brown is just that good. So I like John Brown. Whatever the numbers are, I would say push or over for John Brown. I really don't care what they are because I think he's going to have a good day today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll say push as well. And I'm not playing Angry Birds right now on my phone. I keep going. I'm like updating my Twitter feed to see when the Bills inactives come out, the Buffalo Bills PR page. I'm just literally refreshing it every 2 seconds on my phone, looking for those inactives on the inactive list. Let's have a conversation outside of wide receiver, but another weapon on this offense in Tyler Kroft, because Dawson Knox is not playing. Lee Smith, I think, is what was the comment that Booker McFarland made about Kelvin Benjamin a couple of years ago?
A chicken wing away from being a tight end.
Or a biscuit or something like that.
Yeah. I think he did say it was a chicken wing because Buffalo. He was trying to be topical.
Lee Smith is like the Kelvin Benjamins of tight ends. He's not the most athletic guy in the world. I can't picture Lee Smith going out and running very many routes. I still remember to this day that Tennessee game last year. Like, you know how Deion Dawkins has caught like a numerous amount of touctouhdowns the last couple of years because a Popeye's biscuit away. He's Mystic.
Popeye's biscuit, yes.
And like no one expected Lee Smith or no one expected Deion Dawkins to be out there catching a touchdown because it's Deion Dawkins. Yeah. That was the same with Lee Smith last year against Tennessee. No one expected him to run a route. So, like, that's him. I think he'll be in the pistol formation. He'll be a glorified guy to try to take advantage of Aaron Donald and to try to chip away at Aaron Donald. So that leaves Tyler Kroft as the only true receiving tight end. So this is a really long-winded way of asking you this question. Over, under 4 catches?
Under. So I've been very under. So here's why. I've been very high on Dawson Knox through 2 weeks, and I think Dawson Knox has had the potential to really have like breakout games, but they're not utilizing the tight end position. And if they're not going to utilize Dawson Knox, I don't think that they utilize Tyler Kroft more than they would have utilized Dawson Knox, because Dawson Knox has more potential to do more with the ball after he catches it. So I don't have a problem with him getting like 4 targets, but if you're saying catches, I'm going under.
Okay. Yeah, 4 catches. I'm actually going to take the over here. I'm going to take the over. And the reason why I'm taking the over is because I think the LA Rams are very unathletic at the linebacker position. It's Micah Kaiser. It's a couple other linebackers. They're very stiff. They're not very fluid. They don't get sideline to sideline. They struggle in pass coverage. They let Corey Littleton walk, which is crazy because they paid everyone else. And I don't understand that. I don't like the linebackers in Los Angeles. So I'm not saying, AK Cash says they should force feed Croft. LA won't know what hit them.
I agree with that. I just don't think that they will. That's where I have paused. I just don't think they will because Josh Allen likes throwing to the receivers he has right now.
But Tyler Croft has had some games in Cincinnati where, he's caught 8, 9, 10 balls and he's had 100-yard games.
Yeah.
He's done it in Cincinnati. He's capable of it. I think he could be a sleeper X factor in this game. I wouldn't be surprised if he catches 5, 6 balls for 50, 60 yards and maybe even a touchdown. So
I love the tight. I love tight end production. I'm all about getting tight ends involved. So if we can do that, I love it. I'm not sure that it's going to happen.
And we have our inactives today.
Let's go.
Jake Fromm. Can't believe it. Unbelievable.
No, shocker.
Zach Moss and Dawson Knox were to be expected.
Mm-hmm.
Ike Butker is out on the offensive line, is the inactive. This shocks me a little bit. Daryl Johnson is inactive, and AJ Epinesa is playing. I mentioned in the 9:30 hour that the Deion Lacey call-up was for special teams, and that Daryl Johnson would probably get a run again at defensive end and play some more special teams. So maybe they're calling Deion Lacey up to play special teams so they could have the defensive end in AJ Epinesa active. Maybe maybe they see the same things we're seeing. David Edwards, Austin Corbett, and Austin Blythe as the weakness on the interior, and maybe they want AJ Epinesa to play a little 3 technique and attack that interior, that Rams offensive line. So those are the inactives for the Buffalo Bills: Fromm, Moss, Knox, Butker, Johnson, and Phillips.
We saw Epinesa get he got more run on the defensive side of the ball than Daryl Johnson did last week. So it wouldn't surprise me if they're trying to run Epinesa as a 3 tech a little bit this week.
I'm just going to search up Rams inactives real quick to see if those came out. It was the Rams inactives came a little later. No, they're both up. Let me click on. I have to click on a link. What is this? That's how they get you. So they get your clicks.
Yeah.
Nope. This link was lying. This link is a liar. There is no.
They don't want us to know.
They don't. I don't think the Rams inactives are. Oh, the Rams. No, that was from 6 days ago. Okay. In the comments section, tell us when the Rams inactives are up, and we will get to it for you. It is a big day for the Buffalo Bills. We have our linebackers back. I apologize. Can you talk a little bit about that while I switch up our banner here?
Yeah, so I mentioned this on my show, but having the linebackers back, I think, is huge because if you don't have Edmonds and Milano, then you have 3 holes on the defense, because I think you're automatically going to have what is considered a hole on the defense with Levi Wallace because he's just going to get so many targets coming his way without Trey White. So if you have that issue to worry about covering up, as well as the issue of not having Edmonds and Milano, you have multiple issues that you have to worry about. And it's harder to cover up 3 spots on the defense than it is to just cover up 1. So I think just having them out, even if they're not 100% healthy, having them ready to go on the field automatically upgrades the defense, and it takes away the possibility, or at least it limits the possibility, that Tyler Higbee is going to just go off, because we saw Gesicki last week have a field day against anybody who was covering him. But I don't think that happens if Edmonds and Milano are out there. And the guys that really worry me the most about having big play potential are Cooper Kupp and Tyler Higbee right now. So I think having Milano and Edmonds limits the possibility of at least one of them.
Yeah, and how much did we miss Tremaine Edmonds' length in the middle of our defense last week? Like Tyrell Dodson had a heck of a game, but Tyrell Dodson,
he was all over the place.
Yeah.
He's not the same athlete. He's not the same size. You can't replicate what Edmonds gives you just in the sheer body size.
The difference between 6'1" and 6'5", especially when you're wearing pads, is pretty crazy. And the ability for Edmonds to throw off what quarterbacks are doing over the middle of the field is huge. And talk about a great week to have the linebackers back. The Rams' entire offense is predicated off of play action, misdirection, yards after catch. So they're going to try to run those rub routes. They're going to try to get you over the middle of the field. They're going to try to run outside, cut back inside. It's going to be up to these linebackers to get sideline to sideline, to wrap up, to fill their lanes, all these things. So it's going to be really interesting to see how we do with these linebackers back. And as we wait on the Rams inactives, let's talk about our defense a little bit. With Milano and with Tremaine Edmonds out, let's play a little bit of – we got one from James FX90 here. Mario Addison, because we're going to get to this. So we'll start with James FX here. Mario Addison over under 2 sacks today.
Under. I mean, I could – 1 is fine. I'm fine. If he gets 1 sack, that's comfortable. That's good.
Yeah. He's on pace for 1 a game.
Give me 1 sack. Yeah, give me 1 sack a game. Yeah. I'm fine with that. And I think he can take advantage of guys because he is just a savvy vet. He knows what he's doing. He can be a speed rusher in moments, not consistently. Like, he can use his speed enough. But he's more of a power rusher who can take advantage of guys off the line of scrimmage. So, I mean, you give me over-under of 1 for him every week, I'm going to at least say push because he has the potential to always at least get 1.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm going to take the under as well. You know, I think Mario Addison's a very good player. I mentioned earlier, I mentioned in the 9:30 hour, I really want to see – last week, Jerry Hughes got a couple of reps on Jesse Davis, so he moved over to left end. Because Austin Jackson was doing all right over on that left side. I have such a tremendous amount of respect for Andrew Whitworth, despite the fact that he's 95 years old. You know, he's still kicking. Is collecting a game check and a Social Security check. It's impressive the way he plays football, and he is such a mammoth of a man. And he's a veteran, and he understands veteran moves, and he understands what's in front of him. So Jerry Hughes and Mario Addison, I think, would struggle against Andrew Whitworth. So I'd rather, I think, have Trent Murphy on that side to just put power on Whitworth and set the edge and just try to be strong there. And I'd like to try to play the mismatch with Rob Havenstein on the other side and have Jerry Hughes and Mario Addison try to put their speed rush and their bull rush to more of a run blocker and Rob Havenstein. It seems like maybe we either have a general NFL fan or a Rams fan in the chat. Josh Capman with a couple of comments that I want to acknowledge here. He says, I think McVay is just getting started. He adds layers every week. He said Van Jefferson is going to be a person that you don't pay attention to. And he mentioned Gerald Everett. First of all, you know, if you have ever seen this show, which I don't think you have, Josh, because I think you might be a Rams fan. That's okay. All fans are accepted here. And I haven't seen you in the chat before either. I'm a Van stan. I was a huge Van Jefferson fan in the pre-draft process. He is a very, very good football player. You know, Josh Reynolds is a very good football player too. Gerald Everett is an under-the-radar football player. Like, they have a lot of weapons there in Los Angeles. Don't get me wrong, but you mentioned the layers that Sean McVay adds to his offense. He manufactures guys open. They don't get open on their own. It's not like the Miami Dolphins that we were playing last week, where it was like, all right, Preston Williams, all right, Devontae Parker, go take it to Levi Wallace. Just go take it to him. And Fitz is going to gun the ball into you. That's not who Jared Goff is. You know, someone says Jared Goff attacks the middle of the field. Jared Goff doesn't attack anything. I'm sorry. Like, don't get me wrong. Jared Goff doesn't attack anything. That's not the kind of quarterback he is. He goes through his progressions. He finds the open man. He perfectly executes the whatever was manufactured for him by Sean McVay. He's not Ryan Fitzpatrick. They're not going to look at Levi Wallace, say Levi Wallace sucks. Cooper Kupp, go mano-a-mano with him, and Jared Goff's going to force feed you the football. That's not going to happen today. And that's why I feel confident. Like, that's why I feel a little bit more confident this week, because I think our defensive line is going to be able to get a little bit more pressure, because it's not Ryan Fitzpatrick firing a football off in 2 seconds before our defensive line has a chance to get there. Jared Goff very much holds onto the ball, play action, sets up the play, waits for his progressions downfield. I think our defensive line is going to have a chance to get towards him this week.
Yeah, I actually had this prediction also.
No, we don't think you're trolling at all, Josh. Those were some great comments. We really
Yeah. So I actually had this prediction that, and this was like one of my bold predictions that I do. I said that Ed Oliver is going to outplay Aaron Donald, because I think Ed Oliver can take advantage of a weak interior offensive line for the Rams, which is going to cause problems for Jared Goff then, which is going to cause problems with timing and his reads, because he's a timing quarterback. That's how they run their offense. And if he gets thrown off a little bit, he's going to struggle more, which is going to cause more opportunity to either create turnovers or get sacks or whatever it may be. and that's going to. I don't know how you take advantage of the middle of the field consistently with Edmonds and Milano back in. I know they're not going to probably play every single snap, but it's hard to take advantage of that consistently, even if they're rotating in and out.
Yeah, Josh Clark says you need a ballot to bang on the table for when for new squad members and hot takes. I actually have a judge's mallet in my classroom, so maybe I'll bring it home on show days. So, but you mentioned Ed Oliver, Mario Addison was mentioned before. Over under 3 sacks for the Buffalo Bills today.
I like the over on the sacks because they're getting. I can't remember what the exact number was, but I think the Fanatics account actually posted it this week, where it's like the Bills are leading the league on pass rush win rate. Yeah, win rate. Yeah. So and it was like 66% or something along those lines. So like they're winning, and they're getting to the quarterback. They're just not finishing. So I think this week they can actually finish because Goff, though he can move around a little bit. He's not as mobile as Fitzpatrick, and I don't actually think he's as mobile as Sam Darnold is, oddly enough, or at least he's similar. But with the interior offensive line not as strong, you have guys like Quentin Jefferson, you have guys like Ed Oliver. They can both move. They're not slow guys. They can get after the quarterback and then chase him down from behind. So like I think we can get multiple sacks, and if Goff gets pushed out of the pocket, we have our edge rushers who are probably going to be right there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm taking the over as well because I think that interior is going to have themselves a day today.
Yeah,
Oliver and Jefferson, and I think Vernon Butler could surprise some people today. And I think they're bring some havoc on that interior, which is missing Joseph Noteboom, who will not be on the inactive list. Someone said, "Did you talk inactives yet?" We have talked inactives. We have the Bills inactives on the scroll, and I have the 2 Rams injuries. I will update the Rams inactives as soon as I get a hold of them. Let us know when the Rams inactives are out. But right now we know Cam Akers ain't playing, and Joseph Noteboom is on IR. John Marlowe with a great comment here said, if we keep Goff off key, the Rams get only 17 or 21 points. On the other hand, if we don't, they get 35. And I'm with him. I don't have the numbers. I don't have the numbers in front of me. So I apologize, but Jared Goff's numbers under pressure are horrendous. They're horrendous. So if you can muddy that pocket with that Oliver and Jefferson and Vernon Butler, and you can force Jared Goff to roll out and throw on the run, and you have guys setting the edge like Mario Addison and Jerry Hughes and Trent Murphy and Matt Milano being back, he'll be on he'll be out there as well. I think that's a recipe for success. And I'm really looking forward to seeing Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde in those blitzing situations this week because they like to run those play actions in Los Angeles. So those guys got to get there. They have to get there. But they'll probably have more time to get there with the play actions and things that they run. Josh says he thinks that Robert Woods is going to play in the slot today and that Cooper Kupp will play on Trey White. Yeah. Teron Johnson on Robert Woods scares the hell out of me. I don't know about you. What are your thoughts?
I like Robert Woods against almost anybody because he's crafty. He knows how to get open. He wins on most of his routes. They also utilize him in multiple different ways. They're not just using him in the passing game, so he can beat you at they use him as their jet sweep guy. They use everyone as their jet sweep guy. Honestly, they utilize their wide receivers in so many different ways that if one option isn't working, they're probably going to get them involved in another way. And Robert Woods is a consistent 5 to 7 catches, 60 to 80 yards. And then every now and then he has one of those big days where he just goes off and he gets 2 touchdowns. So he's always going to be there. He's always going to make plays. And sometimes he's just going to make more than he usually does. And he's going to have himself a day. So I'm hoping that he just doesn't go off like he can every now and then. I'm hoping he has one of those standard days that he has.
And we have the Rams inactive now, so I'm going to update the banner. Nothing too crazy. It is Cam Akers, as we all expected. Joseph Noteboom, as I mentioned, is not going to be on this list because he's on IR. But center Brian Allen, wide receiver Tristan Jackson, tight end Bryson Hopkins, and defensive lineman Eric Banks, all non-injuries, which means the other questionable player, Darius Jackson, the boundary corner, number 2 corner opposite Jalen Ramsey, will be active today despite having an ankle injury. So that's something that the Buffalo Bills might want to attack. a smaller corner, 5'9", 186, dealing with an ankle injury.
Yeah.
And I'm going to run this idea by you, and I want you to tell me your thoughts.
Okay.
What about Gabe Davis getting a little bit more maneuvering to the boundary this week, as opposed to playing maybe from the slot to play that mismatch against a smaller Darius Jackson?
So I like that idea, especially in the red zone, because we've seen Gabe Davis in practice winning against pretty much every single corner that we have, including Trey White. And though it's not like a full game rep, he's still winning a lot of his one-on-one battles against them. So if you put a guy who he has an extreme size advantage over, I think he can take advantage of that, especially in the red zone. I'm not too big on trying to throw a ton of jump balls, but if we threw like a fade route to him, I mean, you could see that work. He's the type of guy who can go up and get that ball, and especially when he has that size advantage, if they try and press him, he's probably going to be able to out-physical him off the line of scrimmage. And if they don't, and it's just the ball's up in the air, who's going to get it? He's probably going to be able to out-physical them then, especially since he's healthy and the guy opposite him not fully healthy at the moment. So I like that idea. I like it better in the red zone than in the middle of the field, though, because in the middle of the field, in between the 20s, John Brown is lethal against pretty much anybody because he can, just maneuver and get in and out of his breaks so well. Mm-hmm. And so I like the idea of using – I actually go back to – it was a preseason game, albeit, but last year they threw a fade route to the corner of the end zone to Duke Williams. Mm-hmm. I don't mind the idea of doing that maybe once or twice to Gabe Davis if they get him in that situation. Mm-hmm. Just let him go up and make a play.
I like that. Well, Kyle, it has been a pleasure. I always appreciate talking to you. I always enjoy bouncing ideas off around you. We're going to let you go, start pounding some brews, get your pregame meal ready, get that Stevie Johnson jersey on, and
yes,
all that good juju for the Buffalo Bills so we can beat the Rams this afternoon.
Yes.
Morning for me. See, I struggle with it. I'm still struggling with it. I've been on the West Coast for 5 years now, and I'm still struggling with it. So, Kyle, thank you so much. We appreciate it. And you can catch your podcast Fridays on the Buffalo Fanatics Podcasting Network. And you can also catch him in the 10 a.m. hour doing the fantasy football show every week during the tailgate. Thank you so much, Kyle. Have a good one.
Appreciate it. Go Bills.
Go Bills. All right. I am now joined by the man himself, the editor-in-chief of the BuffaloFanatics.com, Mr. Adam Nannini. How you doing today?
Hey, man, it's game day, so I'm doing great. How you doing, man?
I'm honest. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm jealous of your setup. Every time you're talking to us, you're out on that back patio just living that dream out there in the Carolinas. You must not be a guy who's affected by the heat, huh?
Oh, it's the opposite. I'm very affected by the heat, but I just like being outside. It's nice. It's this is the season, to start hanging out outside. So sometimes I'll even watch the game out here. I got to get like a corner TV set up at some point. That'd be nice.
I'm out here in Phoenix, Arizona. And it's still like 100 plus degrees, like 100 plus degrees still. It's hovering right around 100, but in October and in November, once it starts getting down into like the 60s and 70s in the morning, I'm going to try to set up like my nice little Bills corner on the back patio that I have. Oh, yeah. I'm going to try to do some of these pregame shows from like with a nice paradise backdrop as opposed to I got some pine trees or not some pine trees. I got some palm trees in my backyard. I got a nice little fountain. So I'll try to set up a more pretty background here than this Buffalo versus everybody. But I want to start off things with you today we got a comment from one of our regulars, Cody Finney. I want to talk about it. Me and Kyle have been talking about how we're pretty confident this game is going to be a shootout and that a lot of points are going to be scored this week. But Cody says that we're a lot more confident than he is and the Bills putting up 30 plus. And he expects a low score, old school slobber knocker game like 24-23 or 20-19 type of game. What type of game are you envisioning this week? Are you expecting some high scores or are you expecting some low scores?
I think you said it earlier about, the Rams having about 4 players on defense that are scary. As much as Aaron Donald is a beast and all that stuff, I mean, look, they didn't even get a sack against a weak Eagles offensive line last week. Mm-hmm. I think this is going to be a high scoring game, especially for the Bills. I think that with Milano and Edmonds back, assuming they're playing I don't know, 80% at least. I think that they're really going to shut down Higbee. I think the key is going to be stopping the run game. I think that's going to be everything. The Rams have shown the propensity to run. They've been successful at it. I know they've had some injuries there. But I think that's got to be goal number one is, if we can take away the run, we take away the power of that play action pass, which is everything Jared Goff has. So I think, if we don't stop the run, it could be a low scoring game. I think the Rams just might grind it out on us. So this might be a game we're really going to miss Star Lotulelei or Lotulelei. I never know how to say it.
I think it's low. I think you got it right the first time. I think it's Lotulelei, but yeah, I'm in agreement with you. I mean, the Rams, everything the Rams do, everyone looks at sort of the Rams and Sean McVay and Jared Goff, and they had Brandon Cooks, and they had Sammy Watkins, and they still have Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp, and they see all these big fantasy points every week, and they think like, oh, this is like the Kansas City Chiefs. This is just like a spread out offense. It's not. They are very much predicated on the run game, and they are a run first team, and they use the run to set up the pass, and they run a lot of 11 personnel. So it's going to be really interesting to see how the Bills counter that, and as you mentioned, if they can run the ball on us, it's going to be a low scoring game because we're not going to see the ball as much on offense. And, to Cody's point, I don't think I consider scores in the 20 slobber knocker. But I can see the scores being lower too, because if you look at the Bills offensive game plan this week, I think the Bills offensive game plan might look more like the Jets game where they try to dink and dunk and attack the middle of the field and attack the intermediate, because the Rams are not great on the edge. They are not great at linebacker. Jordan Fuller is a 6th-round pick who I was not very high on coming out. He's a great ball hawk in center field, but the man can't tackle for shit. And they got Darius Williams with an ankle injury, 5'9", 186. They got Troy Hill. Like, no one in their secondary outside of Johnson and Ramsey really scare me. Their linebackers don't scare. Like I mentioned, the 4 players that scare me. Interior of that defensive line, Brockers and Donald. That's where their pass rush comes from. Who scares me in the secondary? Ramsey and Johnson. If you can just attack everywhere else, attack the linebackers, attack the edge, attack the number 2 corner, attack the nickel corner, work the middle of the field. Like, if you can dink and dunk and play sort of that Jets type of game plan, you can work the ball down the field. But that also might take a little bit more time than all those shots we were taking against the Miami Dolphins. So, maybe I'm starting to rethink maybe my prediction here of how many points I have scored, because my prediction of the final game score is in the 30s for the Buffalo Bills. So Cody and you got me rethinking that a little bit, but it'll be really interesting. You can go.
You know who's a player to watch out for this game? I think it might be his coming out game is Reggie Gilliam. I think, with Dawson Knox out, you're going to see Croft in there a fair amount, and, he might get a lot of the snaps, but I think you might see, especially because they're going to want to take advantage of the middle of the field, those linebackers. You're going to see a lot of Cole Beasley. You're going to see, like you said, a lot of Gabe Davis, I think. But watch out for Reggie Gilliam. I would not be surprised if you saw him, squirting out, into the field, across the center in a wheel route, things like that. He showed he has good hands. And I think as the game is sort of slowing down for him, we might see him kind of be our Dawson Knox replacement this week.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point too, because back in the early stages of the offseason after the draft, there was an article written about Reggie Gilliam that after he signed his UDFA, we here at Fanatics uncovered because it was written by a local Akron reporter. And we published it, and the legend of Reggie Gilliam started to take off a little bit. Like, oh, man, this guy was an ace special teamer in college. He blocks a lot of punts. And then the Reggie Gilliam hype really took off in training camp when you mentioned the wheel route. He caught a wheel route pass from Josh Allen, like over a linebacker, and ran it for a touchdown in training camp. People lost their minds. And the legend of Reggie Gilliam began. So, he does come from Akron. There was a shortened off season. They will want to use him in line at fullback and play special teams and all that stuff. But I'm a little higher on Tyler Kroft's impact this week. I think we could see some Tyler Kroft. Like, I was talking with Knapp. I think that Tyler Kroft could have under the radar 5-6 catches, 60, 70 yards and a touchdown this week. But you're right. Like, I don't think Reggie Gilliam is going to have a huge impact. On the, like, in terms of targets, but he could make 1 or 2 plays like he did last week with a touchdown, 1 or 2 plays that really make him stand out. We got a super chat here from Josh Chapman, who is doing a great job in the comment section, giving us the Los Angeles Rams perspective. He's a Rams fan. He's honestly the most respectful fan I think we've ever dealt with in the comment section. Certainly the most educated of fans from an opposing team we've had to deal with in the comment section. So we really do appreciate it, Josh. He says, we don't blitz on defense at all. Go Rams. And yeah, I mean, that's something we talked about on our Thursday show. They don't have blitz. They don't have guys to blitz. Like, they don't have very many good edge players. They get their pressure from Aaron Donald and Michael Brockers, and they drop a ton of guys back, and they play a lot of zone. And that's why I think it's going to be a Rams type of game plan where Josh Allen sits back in the pocket, he waits for people, he finds openings in the zone, and he dinks and dunks it down the football field. That is the game plan that they said. Josh says, we will be playing 3 safeties this game to adjust to your players. Would that third safety be Tyler Rapp? Because I know Jordan Fuller's starting at free, and I know Johnson's starting at strong safety. Would that third safety, Josh, be Tyler Rapp? Because Tyler Rapp was a second-round draft pick who's played like 21 snaps this year for the Rams. You know, so who knows if maybe they're not high on him. Maybe they're waiting to use him on matchups. Who knows? But, yeah, Tyler Rapp could be a player that we didn't really talk about on Thursday because his rep count has been low this year, who could have an impact and come into that game and play sort of a big nickel role on the tight ends and on the Gabe Davises of the world and on the Cole Beasleys of the world. So it should be interesting. We've been playing a little game of over under, me and Knapp, and we got about halfway through it.
All right.
Do you want to take over with me here and talk some over under? We're on to the defense now, and my next question is more of a Ram specific question for you. And that question is over under 1 sack for Aaron Donald today.
I would push. I'd say 1 is about right. I think that the reason is, Allen is not a guy who gets the ball out of his hand fast. I mean, he's going to take sacks. That's just the nature of the way Allen plays. But I don't think it's going to be more than that. I think Allen or Donald would look good, but I think, they're going to put such a focus on him. And I think if the Bills are smart, they kind of run right at him. I'd like to see that. I'd like to see the offensive line wear him out by going directly at him in the run game.
Yeah, I'm going to take the over. I think he's going to get 2 sacks today, but just because someone gets sacks doesn't mean that they've completely taken over a game. You know what I'm saying? Like Jalen Ramsey could have an interception today, and Aaron Donald could have 2 sacks today, but the Bills can still win. Like the offense can still have a good day. Those just happen to be the best players on that defense making the plays. And if the other guys on that defense can't make those plays, then we have more than enough firepower to make up for it. And we'll get to you in a second, Fluffy Panda. But sometimes I try to be serious, and then there's these names. It'll be really interesting. Like I made this comment with Casey on Thursday. It's really nice now to have a quarterback, right? Where his first 2 years, we were pissing our pants whenever Josh Allen got into a 3rd and long situation, right? We were scared because he wanted to play hero ball and he did something stupid and he turned the ball over and all these things. And yes, the hero ball is still there. And yes, he still does some dumb things. But how many times this year have we been in a 2nd and long situation or a 3rd and long situation this year and picked it up? Because Josh Allen has the ability to either throw the ball downfield or tuck it and run it. And we're creating big chunk plays on this offense. So it doesn't scare me as much when we're getting into these down and distance situations. So yeah, if Aaron Donald gets a sack or 2, I don't think it's gonna totally, throw the game off balance. And I think Josh Allen can still have a good day. So I'm gonna take the over with Aaron Donald because he really is the only pass rush option they got there in LA. And our interior offensive line last week, they were rotating, whether it was because of the heat or someone struggling, they were rotating. And Aaron Donald's going to be moving around the defensive line. He'll be on Spain. He will be on Ford. And he'll take advantage of some people in some place. So Fluffy Panda coming in with the super chat. We really appreciate it. He said, Edmonds, Milano, Teron Johnson, all active. Me and Kyle Knapp had a great conversation with that about 20 minutes ago. It's in our banner. Thank you very much. For making sure we're aware of that situation. And yeah, it's against a team like the LA Rams. I am super excited that we're going to have Milano's sideline to sideline abilities. And he's just such a smart football player, filling the gaps. The Rams like to run outside and cut in. You'll have a smart player like Milano to fill those gaps. And when they're trying to throw the football field over the middle to guys like Tyler Higbee and to guys like Robert Woods and to guys like Cooper Kupp, you have the length of Tremaine Edmonds to get in Jared Goff's face. I don't think Tyrell Dodson had a hell of a game against Miami, but he's 6'1". Tremaine Edmonds is 6'5", 6'6". That's a difference in what the quarterback can see over the middle of the field, and it plays a role in sort of how the quarterback perceives and how the quarterback wants to attack the middle of the field, even if the other guy is having a good game. So it should be really interesting with those two guys back. What are your thoughts on having those two guys back?
Oh, it's everything. It's huge. I mean, as much as Klein and Dotson were serviceable, I mean, and I don't hate Klein. I know a lot of people hate on Klein. I think he's a great backup, and that's how I'd like him to be. But certainly with Milano and Edmonds, like you said, Edmonds is so good to get his hands up in the middle of the field. It causes turnovers because people, are throwing over him. And the thing that I really like is Milano's ability to blitz. And yes, he can cover tight ends, great tackler, but his ability to be a pass rusher, I think in this game, particularly, Goff is not the most mobile guy. And, their right tackle is hurt, right? And their center, I don't know what's going on with all that, but between having AJ Epinesa up for this game, and I think you might see him do well, and Ed Oliver, I think is going to be a really important presence. Just adding Milano to that pass rush, I think could be key. I wouldn't be shocked if he had 2 sacks today. I know that's a big, thing, but I think he could. And I think it's, the heart of that defense is those linebackers. So I think having them back is going to really show this week.
Any truth to the rumor that you play Cole Beasley's stunt double in all of his rap videos? Is there any truth to that rumor?
I also help him with some lyrics too, yeah. I think I might be too big to play a stunt double. I mean, maybe if you wanted to look a little meatier, I could see that one.
We got Barry Cumberbatch, brother of Benjamin Cumberbatch, noted Bills fan. Just kidding. But he says, I think the key to our defense is whoever will be covering the slot. I'm in total agreement. It's scaring the hell out of me, whoever's covering that slot. It is really, really, really scaring the hell out of me, whether it's Cooper Kupp or it's Robert Woods or it's Van Jefferson or it's Josh Reynolds or even Tyler Higbee, whoever is lined up in the middle of that defense, whether it's last week where Levi Wallace got pushed inside because they were playing their wide receivers close to the line of scrimmage, or whether it's Teron Johnson. I would like to see the Bills play Jaquan Johnson more at safety and utilize Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer more to cover guys. What are your thoughts on that? Is that just too crazy of an idea?
I don't hate it. I think it depends. I mean, because we're going to have to focus so much on the run, I'm not a big fan of bringing another safety in there. I think we've got to trust our guys. I know Levi Wallace was getting killed last week, and some people are not Teron Johnson fans. I got to tell you, I'm a believer in both of them. I think that not having Milano and Edmonds there really it made them have to do more. And I think with them back, because they're system defenders. That's what it is. And I think Teron Johnson, he's a physical guy. One thing I like about the Bills this season, and what they've done since McDermott's been there, they don't let up the big play. Levi Wallace will have catches against him, but he's not, getting burned for 40-yard deep passes typically. It's usually these 7-yard passes tackle, 10-yard passes tackle. So you got to work methodically down the field and hope you don't make a mistake. And I think a key for the Bills today, like most games, this is kind of obvious, but they've got to win the turnover battle. They've got to create some turnovers. And I think with those two guys back in the middle, I think they're going to be they're good at that today.
Yeah, we were having this conversation. I was having this conversation earlier with Kyle, and we had this conversation I had this conversation with myself in the 9:30 hour. By myself, I mean with the comment section. I'm not crazy. Well, at least I'm not crazy, but it hasn't been since Sean McDermott's first year in Buffalo, where we literally made the playoffs based on turnovers, that this team has really been great at turning the ball over. Like, we've been struggling to turn the ball over the last couple of years. And we're not the worst at it. Like, we're not historically bad or terrible or bottom half in the league, but it's something we got to work on. We got to start turning the ball over more, because I think that that's something that will help you, especially with an offense now that has some firepower to it. Can help you build some leads, can help you put some teams away early. And, we've had a couple people in this comment section mention it now. Our next 4 opponents combined are 8-0. You need every break you can get versus good football teams. The Rams are a good football team. The Raiders are a decent football team. The Chiefs and the Titans are good football teams. Chiefs are a great football team. So, you can use all the help you can get. Josh coming in says they're going to run a bunch formations with their tight ends and H-backs. Yeah, I mean, that's what the Rams do. And that's what the Buffalo Bills are struggling with, because we have a size problem right now. Levi Wallace gets bullied. Teron Johnson gets bullied. And what scares me the most is the fact that they're unwilling to play Saran Neal. Like even last week, they didn't play Saran Neal. It was Dean Marlowe. And Dean Marlowe got burned by Mike Gesicki a couple of times. So it's like Isaiah Ford burned him once. So it's like he clearly the coaching staff is just seeing something in practice where they don't want Saran Neal out there in defense. They clearly value him as a reserve player. They clearly value him as a special teamer, but there's just something about what he's doing on the practice field that's not getting him reps on defense. And I don't understand it because I want that size out there. Like I want that bigger body in Saran Neal. I want that sort of like big nickel type of player out there taking advantage when these guys are all bunched up. I want that bigger body out there, a guy who can get physical at the line of scrimmage with receivers, a guy who can work through and shed blocks, a guy who can make tackles and wrap up, even, unless it's Deshaun Watson, of course. But it's sorry, too soon. But yeah, it should be a really interesting day on our defense, and it'll be really interesting to see how they utilize the talent on that defense. So
I
sorry.
really like Saran Neal. I'm with you there. I think he's a gamer on special teams. I mean, he's always around the ball. I really like him there. You see in coverage, like he's like too aggressive. You know what I mean? He gets burned by that. I think he's got a lot to learn in that. And to your point, that would be an interesting place where we could maybe see a Johnson in there. You know, like adding another body. I think that would be interesting.
Yeah. We see a question here from David Kane. He says, thoughts about TJ Yeldon. What are your thoughts on TJ Yeldon and his usage today?
I mean, Yeldon's a veteran. He's going to know what to do. It's not like he's going to come in there. I mean, he's going to know, how to pass protect. I don't see the ball going to him a lot. I see him coming out maybe on third downs, maybe be a third down back. I think he's going to get his, maybe 5-10 touches today. But I think it's going to be a lot of passing like it's been the last few weeks. And Singletary is going to be the guy. But, I don't hate Yeldon. Yeldon has had moments. He can't fumble, though. That's the problem. Since he's been in Buffalo, he's had a little bit of fumbleitis. And so he's got to hold on to that ball.
He's got to hold on to that football. I mentioned with Kyle that I think it's going to be 70-30 Singletary to Yeldon, and you're going to see most of Yeldon in passing situations.
Agreed.
Josh, again, I loved him as a sounding board today, talking about, from the Rams perspective. He thinks the Bills are going to try to bully their Bills in the Rams in the run game. We thought that last week against Miami, because Miami is not great against the run either. New England ran all over them. It looks to me now like we got to get used to this Bills offense. The way the Bills are playing, it's Josh Allen. Josh Allen has the keys to this offense, and the running backs are secondary. That's not to say the running game is ignored. That's just to say it's not the focal point. It's 60-40 pass to run. It's pass to set up the run. It's try to get chunk plays in the run game as opposed to milking the clock and burying a team with your run game. It appears to be the style of Bills offense. And I'm not convinced until I see anything different that our offense is going to change from that perspective.
Yeah, it is surprising. Like you said, I mean, I think one thing about Miami, we're all, again, you brought up, how our defenders had some rough time against Miami. But if you watch the game on Thursday, Miami looked damn good. Maybe people are, sleeping on them. They had a tough first two games. So, but in terms of running the ball, yeah, I'm a little surprised. I thought Singletary and Moss would be more of a factor. But honestly, it's like, if it's working, it's working. I'm wondering what kind of defense, how exactly the Rams are going to match up against us. Like you said, I mean, it's like they don't have the players really to match our weapons. And if we can run, I wouldn't be surprised if we do 4 wide a lot today.
Yeah, so, they're edge players whose names I can't pronounce. I'm not going to lie to you, and their linebackers, guys like Micah Kaiser, they're stiff. They're not the most athletic guys in the world, and they're definitely guys that I definitely have confidence that Devin Singletary can get to this second level and beat guys like Micah Kaiser. He can get around the edge on some of these guys, and I think Devin Singletary can have himself a day. I'm just not sure if he's going to be fed the ball enough times to do so. A quick shout out to my man Taj here. Taj Fitzgibbons of the Bills Army. Go check out the Bills Army on Facebook. If you're a Facebooker, if you're a Facebook person, go ahead and follow the Bills Army on Facebook. You won't regret it. One of the best Facebook groups out there if you are a member of Bills Mafia. Taj does a great job running that site. Buffalo Fanatics is posting in there all the time. And yeah, another great guy. Josh is killing it today. Josh is just absolutely. I'm sending all my money that I make off this show today to Josh. But he says, I bet we see a lot of zone read with Allen. So that's actually, Josh, that's a really contentious thing with Bills Mafia. And in the comment sections, let us know how you feel about Josh Allen and running the zone read this week, because there's two things with running the zone read. I agree with Josh that running the zone read could be really effective with it could get Aaron Donald moving in the wrong direction. There's really unathletic players on the edge and at linebacker that Josh Allen and the running backs can take advantage of. There's a number of positives to running that zone read this week. The negative is Josh is struggling with it. Josh is fumbling the football when he's running. And the second is he's calling his number too much. Like too many times he's pulling it back and taking it himself. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. But there are some occasions where he's just straight up making the wrong read, and he's getting buried, and he's taking shots, and he's getting piled on and fumbling the football when Devin Singletary could have gone over and gone in the other direction and stuff. So it'll be really interesting to see what they decide to do with the RPO this week. We got David Ramirez here who says Brandon Staley is the key to the Rams' victory. National media said we couldn't cover Amari, Gallup, and Lamb. Rams' new defensive coordinator has been impressive. Here's what I'm going to say to this. I think that Brandon Staley is going to be the reason why the Buffalo Bills win this game. And I think that Brandon Staley has a bright future ahead of him in the National Football League. I think he has a really bright future ahead of him. But the dude is 39 years old and has been in the National Football League for 3 years. He had 2 years under Fangio in Denver as an outside linebackers coach, and now he's in his first year as the Rams defensive coordinator. Yes, he could be the Sean McVay of defense, as a young and up-and-comer. But Brian Dave, before that, he was coaching at John Carroll and Northern Illinois, like lower-level college football. Brian Dable's been calling plays in the National Football League and part of the New England Patriots organization and the Alabama Crimson Tide organization, and a lot of really good quality organizations for 20 years. He's probably the hottest play caller in the National Football League right now outside of Greg Roman.
Yeah.
I mean, there are 4 players on this Rams defense: Ramsey, Johnson, Brockers, Donald, that scare me. I don't for one that this is where I'm confident this week. I think Brian Dable is smart enough and is experienced enough to be able to pick apart the other 9 guys or the other 7 guys on defense and attack the other 7 guys on defense and have great success with it, while selectively targeting the other 4 and attacking the other 4. And I think Brian Dable is up to the challenge of creating a game plan to do that. So no offense to Brandon Staley, who I think is going to be a very good defensive coordinator, probably future head coach in this league. I just think Brian Dable is a hot hand right now, and he's got way more experience. That's why I'm feeling confident.
Well, I the one advantage to what you're saying that Staley has is that, we don't have tendencies yet. We don't know exactly who this guy is totally. You know what I mean? Like with a Dayball, you can kind of say, oh, it's the New England style offense, all that stuff. I don't know. What I'm interested in? There was, the whole thing about like shutting down the Cowboys and stuff. If you watch that game, okay, the Rams defense played well, but a lot of that was the Cowboys offense hurting themselves. They just didn't, they didn't use Lamb like they should have, and it wasn't until second quarter last week that they finally said to Dak, hey, chuck it, man. And you saw what happened. Mm-hmm. So I'm not going to give them a ton of credit on the Cowboys game and beating a sort of like Eagles team that looks like it's floundering. I don't know. I'm not amazed by this defense. I think they've got some players. I think they got guys who can do one thing really well, like Kaiser, for example. I think he's a tackling machine. But, I want to see what he does against the tight end, against the running back. And who's going to spy if Josh Allen does run? I think the thing is, I know Bills Mafia doesn't like seeing Allen run so much. And I understand that. I agree with your point that sometimes he's got to give the ball away. He does that too much. But he does need to run enough to lock in a spy. I think when we do that, that opens up the field so much for those long crossing routes, things like that. So I'd like to see Allen run. I just don't want to see him, like you say, take all these shots and fumble. He's got to learn to stop doing the, I'm going to stiff arm guys like I'm Walter Payton It's like, slide, man. It's okay.
Mhm.
We'll take 7 yards. We don't need 12 every time.
Yeah. Scott Blakely in the comment section, not happy we're taking Rams fans' comments. I try to do my best to do a mix of both. I spend my week researching the opponents, and so when I see Rams fans commenting things that I'm seeing, I guess maybe that was just sort of like, what is that like when you're seeing things that sort of make you feel like you did a good job this week? The Rams fans were making me feel like I did a good job this week because a lot of what I was seeing, Rams fans were telling me. So, Scott, I apologize. Hopefully you come back on Thursday. Hopefully we see you on Thursday. And I think we're getting, a solid mix of comments in here, but
Yeah.
I do apologize, Scott. We try our best to please everybody here. That I guess it's just not always the case, but let's get to a player that we haven't talked about yet. And maybe we should be talking about this guy more. That's Tyler Higbee, the tight end for the LA Rams. 3 touchdowns last week. The Bills played pretty well against tight ends last year, but have historically struggled against tight ends. And maybe this is going back into the pre-Sean McDermott era. Maybe I'm letting demons of old take over here. But what are your thoughts on Tyler Higbee and how should we deal with this guy who's turning into the next Travis Kelce right before our eyes?
Okay, let's slow our roll a little bit. Okay, I mean, he looks good, and he looked good at the end of last year, and certainly come out strong. I think between Milano and our safeties, I think we can shut him down. What I don't see is him getting like deep passes this week. I think he's going to get his catches, but I think you're going to see a lot of shorter passes. I don't see him going over the top, and if they try that, I think we might see some interceptions. I think we'll do a decent job. I think he's going to get some numbers, but I don't see him like killing us. And McDermott's defense, that's what it is. It's that bend but don't break. You were talking earlier about lack of turnovers, and I think part of that is the pass rush. With Mario Addison here, if AJ Epineza can step up and we see Ed Oliver become the guy, I mean, if you've watched the film, he's like almost there, like a lot. So he's gonna finish it up. But Higbee doesn't scare me. I think the thing is the Rams are really good at distributing the ball, and what we need to be careful of is Goff and McVay going to be able to find the weak link where they can just attack. And if we can't stop the run, that's going to make it all happen. So Higbee, his success, all the receiver success is really determined on how effective are the Rams running to me.
Yeah, because I mean everything they do is dictate off that play action. So I'm with you, but it'll be realistic. You mentioned Oliver. He's almost there. He's almost there. Hughes is almost there all the time. Jefferson is almost there all the time. ESPN posted a stat. The Buffalo Bills are number 1 in the NFL in pass rush win rate. They're getting to the quarterback. They're just not getting the sacks. So if they can continue to do that this week, Jared Goff does not play well under pressure. And again, I should have had the stats in front of me today. I didn't. But his stats under pressure this year and in past years is not great. It's not. And so if you can really ruffle Jared Goff's feathers, I think that's the recipe to success today. And I think having Milano and Edmonds is going to help with that, not just because it's going to help the defensive line in the run game, so they don't have to worry about the run game so much that they neglect the pass rush. It's going to help, getting to the outside, sideline to sideline with the setting, getting around to the outside, getting those running backs that are cutting outside, filling those lanes, tackling the guys who are getting inside. It's just those linebackers, like, they're just so important to Sean McDermott's defense and so important to his scheme. So,
and with Goff's lack of mobility, watch for that double A gap blitz a lot today, or at least the threat of it. You're going to see Edmonds and Milano at the line a lot of plays, and I think they're going to get home sometimes.
Yeah. Kevin Weber says Higbee is not Kelce. I know. I was speaking hyperbolically, but he's had a couple of big games. He's relatively the same size. So yeah, I do apologize for speaking hyperbolically there, but I was just trying to get a point across. But Lone Wolf says here, what pairing of defensive tackles are the Bills against the run? I'd say probably Vernon Butler and Harrison Phillips. Ed Oliver and Harrison Phillips. Ed Oliver and Vernon Butler. Some combination of that would probably be Ed Oliver's actually pretty good against the run because he's able to push guys into the backfield, which throws the running back off. It makes the running back have to make a move right away. And especially this week, when they're going to try to run a lot to the outside, Ed Oliver's the kind of guy who can push those linemen to the outside and bring guys along with him. So it should be really interesting. Harrison Phillips is the only real 5-tech. You mentioned earlier Star Lotulelei. That was a huge blow. I was really surprised we let Vincent Taylor go. We're a team full of 3-techs in the middle of that defense. We don't have a lot of 1-techs. I apologize, I said 5-techs earlier. We don't have a lot of 1-techs. Just anchors in the run game. It's guys who can do both. So it's whatever 4 of those guys are out there. Those are pretty much the 4 guys who are best against the run because they're all quite similar. Harrison Phillips is the least athletic, which probably makes him the run stuffer, but he's even more of a 3-tech than he is a 1-tech.
Yeah, I mean, I think the nice thing is, though, we brought some girth where we can go pretty big across the line. We might not have that one, Ticonderoga class guy in the middle, but, you can put Jefferson as an end. Epinesa is a big guy. Mario Addison is a big guy. I mean, so I think we can put some big bodies out there with some size. And so it's just an issue of stopping that sort of zone run scheme and, getting their hands on them early,
We got Caderet Eli says, do you think Edmonds and Milano can be active but not on the field that much? I don't think Sean McDermott's a decoy kind of guy. He values his roster spots, so I don't picture that. How about you?
Yeah, I doubt that. I mean, I'm curious to see, after the first few hits, how they're looking. I wouldn't be shocked if, one or both of them ends up leaving the game at some point. But I don't think, like you said, he's not a decoy guy. And also, I don't think McDermott's going to play a guy if he's not, not fully healthy, but basically ready to go.
We got Kyle Woolston saying Fox NFL got a Bills table commercial. So let's now, with about 9 minutes left in the show here, let's see if we can make some of these Bills fans in the comments section jump through folding tables of their own.
Ooh.
Adam, I'm going to ask you right now for your game prediction. Then we'll read off some game predictions in the comment section. Then I will give my game predictions, and we will head on out of here. So what is your game prediction for Bills versus Rams today?
I think not only do the Bills win, I think the Bills win big. I'm going to say 27-14. I think that they're going to be able to bottle up the run. We might struggle with that a little early on, but typically they adjust well. You see some teams, they'll jump out on us with the run game and they'll get an early score. But I think that defense is going to look like the defense of last year. I think we're really going to give Goff trouble. And I think our offense is going to keep rolling. So I think we're going to get turnovers. I'm going to say, like I said, 27-14.
I'm a little disappointed in the comment section. We only got one prediction here. So I'm going to read off Elliott's. And then come on, guys. I want your predictions here. 34-24 Bills, says Elliott. Lone Wolf says, any more news on Beasley's hand? From what I heard, he was struggling in practice this week, but he's active. My guess is maybe you'll see some Stephon Diggs in the slot this week to get him away from Jalen Ramsey. A little bit of Gabriel Davis on the outside to play the mismatch on some smaller corners. Barry Cumberbatch says 31-20. Well, here they go. Now they're rolling in. We got Kyle Woolston, 38-24. We got Spin 0481 saying 34-13. Juxie saying 31-14. Gavin's got 28-17. James Williams, 28-24. All Bills so far, by the way. I'll let you know if we have anything that's non-Bills here in the comment section. Lone Wolf says 27-24. Andre, 34-24. Michael, 35-17. DeMario, 27-13. Robert Mulligan, 31-21. We got Rayshawn Witherspoon with the first Rams prediction, 33-17. I would be really disappointed if we put up 17 points. Josh Chapman calling for a tie here. Juxie, very, he's Switzerland right now. Juxie playing, predicting 31-14. James FX 35-13. He says our Bills D show up big. 3 picks, 1 pick 6 from Levi.
Oh, I like it.
Peter J says 24-13 Bills. Diggs and Brown 100+ yards and a touchdown each. I don't know, facing zone coverage like that, I just don't know if that's in the cards. But Turk says 31-24. Robert Milligan just says Bills. Stephen Campione 31-21. Got a couple more in here. Sorry, I lost my spot. So many coming in. Taj 27-21, Red Pill 21-10.
Whoa.
D Crystal 24-17. So a lot of them. So I'm gonna share. Oh, let's just go with Kingpin coming in 31-17 Mills. Motor goes off.
Hail to the king.
KZ here 63 to 0.
I like that guy. I like it.
So my prediction, ladies and gentlemen, for the game today is I think that the Buffalo Bills are going to score a lot of points. I also think the Rams are going to score some points. I'm with Elliot. I'm going 34. I think he had 34-24. I'm going to go 34-27. Bills over the Rams in a tight game, a shootout of sorts. I think there's going to be a lot of field goals today, but also going to be some misses because of that wind and 2 rookie kickers. So at the end of the day, I think it's going to be 34 to 27, which means that Tyler Bass goes 2 of 3 kicking field goals today. So it could have been 37. And I think Solomon's going to miss a kicker or 2 today too, which could be the difference in the game. So it's going to be a really interesting matchup. We've actually got about 5 more minutes left.
Could I comment on the Cole Beasley thing real quick?
Yeah, of course.
Watch for a lot of Isaiah McKenzie in the game. I wouldn't be surprised if they really try to get the defense moving left to right. A lot of the jet motions today. We haven't seen it quite so much this year as we did last season. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't be surprised if they go back to it to open things up for Singletary. Mm-hmm. I agree with King. They want to get him moving. And I think that Beasley will play a really limited role today. I watching him in practice, a guy's got a hurt thumb and all that stuff. I think he'll play, but I wouldn't be surprised if McKenzie gets maybe 50-50 snaps with him.
That is a great comment. That is something that, I think we mentioned on Thursday and we've neglected to mention today is those jet sweeps, those jet motions with the unathletic edge defenders, with the unathletic linebackers. Isaiah McKenzie could have himself a day, and just the threat of it could open up things for guys over the middle of the field like Tyler Croft or Cole Beasley or Gabe Davis. Buffalo defendant wants to know, Adam, is Eric Wood your long lost brother?
That's a family secret, so I'm going to keep that one there. Don't tell Eric. He doesn't know, but, Andre Roberts, I like that. He could. He's
Roberts a touchdown today.
He's come close, man. He's almost broken a couple. He looks good this year in terms of his returns. I mean, you got to wonder when they start kicking away from him. That might happen today.
This is my favorite comment of the day coming from Spin0481. Hey, over under. The Bills score 4 points in the third quarter today.
That's
What are your thoughts? Let's give a third quarter score prediction. Did the Bills kick more than a field goal in the third quarter today?
I'm going to say no. I mean, I'm sorry. This is not just this season. This is a trend. I don't know what's going on with the halftime adjustments. It seems like Daboll's a little slow on responding to what the defense does. And so I'm going to say no. I think maybe a field goal.
Yeah. Robert Milligan coming in. He says, Josh Allen, another game-winning drive. That's fun. But I'd rather we just win this game outright and not have to have a game-winning drive. I actually have to watch this game in front of other people today. So I'm very much a weirdo. I like to watch the games alone.
Me too.
I like to process. I don't like to be bothered. I don't like distractions. I like to watch the game by myself. And I have a buddy in town from Atlanta for business. So he's coming over to watch the game today. So I'm hosting a couple of people for the game. And I, for the sake of our friendship between me and this gentleman, I really hope that the Bills just win this game running away because I don't want him to see me watch Josh Allen try to lead a fourth quarter drive. That's just not something that any human being, quite frankly, needs to see. We have to put a thunder jacket on our dog on Sundays because she's very much an empath. I don't yell and scream. I don't lose my mind. I don't have a temper tantrum or anything, but she's very much an empath. Like she can sense people's emotions and like she could tell when myself or my fiance are upset or like when our heart's racing, like when we're like on edge. And then she gets on edge and she has panic attacks and she has anxiety attacks and she freaks out. So we legitimately have to put a thunder jacket on her for game day. So she's sitting in the other room, just suffocating in a straitjacket right now, getting ready for me to watch this Bills Rams game. So
I'm the same way, man. I have only time I watch a game with people is typically with my buddy Everett. And it's only because he's a good luck charm. Whenever I watch a game with him as a Dolphins fan, we tend to win, and so I'm a nuisance when I'm watching the Bills game.
We got John Min. I think this is a good last question. respect or hate Robert Woods. I think there's only one answer here, and that is respect. I love Robert Woods. I was really sad to see him go, but from what I've heard from a lot of people, it was a foregone conclusion that at some point in his career he was going to head back to the West Coast. So thankfully, he's in the NFC. He's back in LA, his hometown. He was a USC kid. Just an absolute great guy. I know I used to valet park at the Galleria Mall. I used to be a valet parker there, and he always tipped very well. So nothing but respect for Robert Woods and what he's doing out there in Los Angeles. Just not today, Robert. Not today.
Robert Woods is a tough SOB. He does everything right. To me, he reminds me a little bit of a sort of Steve Smith, Doug Baldwin type, where he is like just absolutely, he'll get in, he'll block, he'll be physical. He's a guy you don't want to mess with, and a great player, nothing but respect.
Yeah, that Doug Baldwin comp that's a great comp. I never thought about that, but yeah, he's exactly that type of receiver. So, ladies and gentlemen, it is 9:30. It is time now for everyone to go get your bathroom break in, pour your drinks, prep your food.
Oh yeah.
If you're like me, hide your kids, hide your wife, put them somewhere safe. Put them somewhere safe where you can't hurt them. And let's get ready. Let's get ready for some Buffalo Bills football.
Steve, do you have a Buffalo Bills panic room for your girl, man? Is that what happened?
Yeah, it's like that Jodie Foster movie. Her and Kristen Stewart just go hide in there every Sunday. Back when we were just first started dating, she would always stay the night on Saturday. But I always tell her, be like, you should really consider, if you ever want this relationship to go anywhere, leaving Saturday morning and not staying and watching me watch a Bills game. Like, you should really think about that. And she would, because she would go to Starbucks and work and then go home. But Jared Bushy, for fantasy, should I bench all Rams players just for the karma? No, Jared. What you should do is you should start all the Rams players. They will suck. You will lose, but you are taking one for the Bills Mafia, Jared. You are taking one for the Bills Mafia.
I like it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, Rico is taking over 15 minutes after game time like he always does. So keep an eye out for Rico. I will be back tomorrow with my main man. No offense, Ad, with my main man. Tilt Money. Dave Tilt me back in the house tomorrow afternoon. Let's flood the subscribe button before you all go. Like this, head over to the homepage, become a member of Buffalo Fanatics, subscribe, join. We really do appreciate you. We appreciate all our subscribers, all our super chatters, and even people who are just jumping in for a day or two. We'll win you over eventually. We'll win over your hearts eventually. If we don't do it today, we'll win you over eventually. Don't you worry. So until next time, ladies and gentlemen, check out the BuffaloFanatics.com as well, because Adam is the editor-in-chief, and there are some great articles daily, I should say. 2-3 articles a day from the Buffalo Fanatics website, thebuffalofanatics.com, thebuffalofanatics.com, the Rico Report, the Bills Guy, Buffalo Fanatics. We've always got you covered. Until next time, Adam, go Bills.
Go Bills.